Chapter 1274. The Battle Between Dragons and Pythons, the Gathering of Winds and Clouds. It was time to assemble. The day of the Holy War had finally arrived. The mighty crowd marched side by side, retreating out of 10,000 Bell City one after another. It was close to noon. In a deep valley hundreds of miles away from 10,000 Bell City, 3,000 disciples of the martial sect gathered like a long river. Inside and outside the valley, the scenery was unique and beautiful. The green mountains on both sides were steep, exuding a majestic and ancient aura. 10,000 Bell City was an ancient city with a long history of 10,000 years. And this area had also experienced countless years of wind and rain, snow and frost. In the depths of the valley, clouds and mist lingered, and spiritual chi was abundant. Amidst the clouds and mist, there was an incomparably vast and huge sky curtain. The sky curtain was tens of thousands of feet high, reaching up to the vast sea and down to the mountains, rivers, and forests. It was like an infinitely huge barrier blocking in front of everyone, and also like a spatial boundary that separated two different planes of world. The vertical, giant curtain blocked in the valley, spanning thousands of miles of mountains and rivers on both sides, overturning mulberry fields. It was like an ancient restriction that had been sealed for countless years and had not been opened by anyone. "Is the Chaos Devil Domain ruins in here?" Wu Yin said with a cautious look. "Maybe." Wang Li's tone was also cautious. At this point, the martial sect disciples, who originally had a lot of expectations for the Holy War, were more serious. After all, compared to other sects and forces, the martial sect was relatively less competitive. It was still unknown how far they could go in the cruel battle between dragons and pythons. In addition, a few days ago, Lu Qian of the Imperial Sword sect brought a group of people to cause trouble, which really hit the morale of the martial sect people a lot. As a result, most of them looked a little worried. "I say, why does everyone look like a dead fish?" Wu Mian squinted his eyes, and his voice was especially loud. "The Holy War recruitment is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we happen to encounter it this year. If it was a few years earlier or a few years later, we would not be qualified to participate." "Hey," second brother Wu's words make sense. Ding Xiaoyun and the others also jumped out. "Although the overall situation of our martial sect this year is indeed not good, but the beginning is not good, it does not mean that we can't make a comeback later. Everyone, come on, let's go into this Chaos Devil Domain together. Let's try it out." Skinny Monkey, Iron Gate, and Little Yin also raised their arms and cheered. Although these words came from the mouths of the worst disciples of the martial organization, they more or less had an encouraging effect. The dispirited look on many people's faces gradually disappeared. "Oomph." At this moment, a disdainful and indifferent voice sounded out. "A group of cowardly trash. If you're afraid, then scram." Everyone was shocked. The person who spoke was none other than Pei Yi, the chief disciple of the West Sky Peak Academy. "I say, senior brother Pei Yi, your words are not appropriate. Right now, everyone is representing the martial sect. Why are you ridiculing your companions?" Wu Mian said in a deep voice. If it was any other time, Wu Mian wouldn't dare refute Pei Yi even if he was given 100 guts. However, today was different from the past. The Beichin Peak Academy had risen again, and Wang Li, Qiu Xingyi, and Qi Qianying were all close to Chu Hen. Wu Mian was not afraid of Pei Yi. Pei Yi sneered. "With your little ability, you can only walk on your stomach in the Holy War. Instead of becoming cannon fodder, it's better to scram as soon as possible. A group of useless people. Don't think of the Holy War as a beautiful trip. When the time comes, you won't even know how you die." Even the eloquent Wu Mian suffered a heavy blow at this moment. However, he had no way to refute Pei Ye's words. Chu Hen's eyes faintly surged with a hint of deep coldness. Qiu Xingyi also secretly shook his head. The Chaos Devil Domain had not yet opened, but the martial organization was already in such a mess. How were they going to pass the rest of the journey? It was really disturbing. Rumble. Suddenly, heavenly thunder rolled in the sky above the ravine, and the wind and clouds were like a tide. The majestic, giant screen that spanned tens of thousands of miles suddenly emitted a strong energy fluctuation. Waves of light patterns swayed on the barrier, and countless strange, large light-patterned secret talismans appeared in the sky. Buzz, buzz! Immediately after, under many pairs of astonished gazes, the giant screen that covered the sky slowly caved in. The caved-in space rapidly expanded, and the clouds and mist inside rotated rapidly, forming a millstone-like nebula vortex. Boom! The earth-shattering momentum shocked the heavens, and the sunken light screen rapidly cracked open, as if an ancient, mysterious passage had been opened. In an instant, a large misty passageway appeared before the eyes of the martial sect members. At the same time, in the sky above the better area, tens of thousands of golden rays sprinkled down from the sky, and the divine light was like rain, covering the sky. Above the void, the bright and luxurious glass palace was like a god descending. On the left and right sides of the palace, two stone pillars that supported the sky began to coil around a dazzling golden dragon and a dark python. The door of the main hall slowly opened, and an ancient and vigorous voice came out. The sacred war has begun. The Chaos Devil Domain ruins. Everyone, please, please. It was like an ancient order issued by an ancient emperor, and after countless years, it was finally transmitted to everyone's ears. At this moment, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles was in an uproar. Every different sect and race had their own passage to enter the Chaos Devil Domain. In addition to the people of the martial sect, large, misty passageways appeared in the sky one after another in all the other places. Looking from afar, there were already figures leaping into the passageway as fast as the wind. The Chaos Devil Domain has finally opened. Let's go. Let's go. Excited voices came from all directions. Countless figures were like a school of fish rushing towards the mouth of the net, flying towards the passage. Xiao Xingyi raised one hand and turned to look at Wang Li, Chu Hen, Qi Qianying, Pei Yi, and the other martial organization disciples behind him. He shouted with an extremely solemn expression, "Once you enter the Chaos Devil Domain ruins, until the end of the sacred war, you can't turn back. Those who are willing to fight with me, go. Go." Everyone answered in unison. It was as if the decadence and loneliness from before had disappeared in an instant. Everyone's eyes shone with a fiery light. After saying that, Xiao Xingyi took the lead and flew towards the misty passage in the sky like a leading sheep. Chu Hen, Wang Li, Qi Qianying, and the others followed closely behind. Then, all the martial organization disciples stepped into the air. Many martial ancestor realm disciples rushed in like a giant dragon. Under the luxurious and bright glass palace, the spectacular nebula vortex stirred up the heaven and earth. The misty passage in the giant sky was like a space-time bridge that connected to another world. All the sects geniuses from all directions seemed to be involved in an endless storm. It was vast and mighty, shaking the heaven and earth. Chapter 1275. The Chaos Devil Domain was in chaos again. Phew! There was an inexplicable, bone-chilling coldness in the cold wind. After passing through the Sky Curtain Passage, the disciples of the martial arts sect seemed to have passed through a series of time and space cycles and then stepped into a brand new ancient world. What appeared in front of them was a desolate land that exuded an endless aura. The air was filled with gray mist. The sky was also hazy, as if it was shrouded by dark clouds that had yet to disperse. The outline of the mountains could be vaguely seen in the distance, rising and falling like a long dragon that was sleeping on the ground. This is the Chaos Devil Domain? Isn't it too different from what I imagined? Or have we entered another place? The martial sect disciples were puzzled as they looked around. Apart from the hazy silhouettes in the mist, they could not see anything clearly and could not even tell the direction. Everyone, don't be anxious. Pay attention to the surroundings. Xiao Xingyi reminded everyone. He then flipped his palm and took out a crumpled sheepskin scroll. What's this? Wang Li came forward and asked. The map of the outer circle of the Chaos Devil Domain. Oh, everyone's eyes lit up, and the others also gathered around, their eyes filled with anticipation. As expected of senior brother Chiao, he even managed to get his hands on such information. Now that we know the geographical distribution of the Chaos Devil domain, we don't have to wander around like headless flies. It must have cost a lot, right? Yes, I used 3 divine weapons to exchange for this, Qiu Xingyi replied as he slowly unrolled the sheepskin scroll in his hand. However, in the next moment, everyone's expressions froze. All of their anticipation turned into a dumbfounded expression. Senior brother Qiu, who did you exchange those 3 divine weapons with for the map? I'll go kill him first before coming back. I'll go too. The topographical map outlined on the sheepskin scroll could only be described as unbearable to look at. A few twisted lines resembled mountains and rivers, and the geographical names were a complete mess. Other than the north, south, east, and west, which were still clear, the rest were completely incomprehensible. Qiu Xingyi's expression was slightly solemn. Previously, he had exchanged a godly armor for the word secret key. Then, he used 3 divine artifacts to exchange for this map. Under normal circumstances, this would definitely not be a squandering of the family, but a squandering of the sect. However, for this holy war, one side was willing to fight, while the other side was willing to suffer. There was no question of whether it was worth it or not. Of course, the divine artifacts and resources used to exchange information were given by the upper echelons of the martial sect before they set off. Otherwise, no matter how rich Qiu Xingyi was, there was no way he could casually take out 4 divine artifacts. We should be here. After a careful reading, Qiu Xingyi pointed to a certain location on the map and said. Everyone's eyes narrowed slightly. They saw that the man was pointing at a gray area. From above, it did look a little similar to the environment shrouded in fog. Let's go through this foggy area first. Everyone nodded. Soon after, Qiu Xingyi, Wang Li, and Qi Qianying led the way, while the others followed behind in an orderly fashion. The current terrain was rather rugged, and the ground was not flat. It went up and down, giving people the feeling that they were walking on a steep slope. Big brother Chu Hen, what's wrong? Yao could not help but ask when she saw Chu Hen frown. Chu Hen shook his head slightly and answered in confusion. I don't know why, but I feel that this atmosphere is a little familiar. Familiar? The people around him were stunned. Have you been here before? The one who spoke was Zhao Qingkai. Chu Hen smiled. How could that be? It's just that I can't quite put my finger on it. He analyzed this feeling slightly. Oppressive. Uneasy. Where had he felt this before? Suddenly, Chu Hen's pupils faintly shrunk as he suddenly thought of something. That's right, the Silent Ridge. The Silent Ridge. When he had escorted Shaoan back to the ancestral butterfly clan with Han Ichuan, they had passed by that place on the way. It was a silent land of death. Other than countless monsters and ancient corpses that were in deep slumber, there was also a place that was almost the same as this place that couldn't see the light of day. The void that had not melted for tens of thousands of years was eternally covered by dark clouds. The most terrifying thing was that once someone spoke, countless monsters and corpses would crawl out of the ground. In the next instant, a dark aura that seemed to come from hell suddenly attacked them from all directions. Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately yelled, Everyone be on guard! The expressions of Qiu Xingyi, Wang Li, Qi Qianying, and the others at the front also changed as they unleashed their powerful auras. But then a miserable and panicked scream came from the back of the group. It was short and hurried, followed by the terrifying sound of claws and fangs tearing. Countless gloomy and strange shadows quietly crawled out of the fog around them. Each of the black shadows exuded a thick aura of death. Everyone's expression changed drastically. The shadows continued to approach, and through the gray fog, they took on all kinds of hideous and terrifying decaying forms. There were giants that looked like humans, but were not beasts. There were monsters with tentacles all over their bodies. There were also undead warriors that wore heavy armor, but had skeletons inside. Their bodies were covered with an ancient decaying aura, and they had all awakened from their slumber, thirsting for blood and slaughter. Wah! Woo! The overwhelming attacks came at the same time. The Wuzong disciples were shocked, but they did not show any weakness and retaliated with powerful attacks. Humph! A group of decaying evil creatures dare to attack us? Kill, completely bury them deep underground. Boom! Bang! A series of powerful shockwaves erupted one after another, and brilliant rainbow-like beams of Zhen Yuan crisscrossed in the air, turning the monsters and carrying corpses into dregs. Inyang Sky Palm. 1,000 miles of ice. 1,000 feathered divine kill. The ferocious and powerful force gave rise to layer after layer of monstrous waves. The ground split apart, space trembled, and even the gray mist that suffused the heavens and the earth was blown away. Behind the fog, more and more ancient monster corpses also appeared. Chi-Chi. The cold and powerful dark blue lightning intertwined like a net. Wherever it went, such as the divine radiance holy sword, more than a dozen monsters were crushed by Chu Hen's attack. But then, 7 or 8 giant octopus tentacles broke out of the ground and surrounded Chu Hen. At the same time that Chu Hen leapt into the air, traces of purple light surged within his deep pupils. Buzz, a cold aura spread out, accompanied by distorted space, and a demonic purple flame suddenly rose from the giant tentacles. The domineering purple flame followed the tentacles and burned the other parts of the monster's body. Ha! A sharp sound spread out, and a few tentacles continued to struggle. In the blink of an eye, they turned into a pile of ashes. Shortly after, Chu Hen's gaze looked straight ahead. A formless air wave rippled out from his eyes. In an instant, the space in front of the fog fell into a strange, overlapping state, and a large area of the area appeared in Chu Hen's mind. Behind the fog, an overwhelming number of monsters and corpses surged toward him like an army of beasts and insects. Whether it was the number or the momentum, it was far from what the Silent Ridge could compare to. "Let's go, we can't fight for long," Chu Hen shouted to Qiu Xingyi and the others. Qiu Xingyi also knew that these ancient corpses were evil creatures formed by the extreme in-death aura that had accumulated for thousands of years. They were not afraid of death, did not know pain, and were like machines. They had to leave this place as soon as possible. Pei Yi, Qi Qianing, the two of you will lead the way with me. Chu Hen, Wang Li, Weiyan, the three of you are responsible for blocking the way back. After saying that, Qiu Xingyi stepped into the air, and the true inner force in his body circled around his body like a golden virtual dragon. Then, he put his palms together, and a piercingly cold and extraordinary domineering aura burst out. Metal essence slash. Along with the sound of his voice, an earth-shattering blade light that spanned 1,000 meters appeared in the sky and slashed forward with a momentum that could split the mountains and split the earth. Boom! The mountains and rivers exploded, and the earth and sky shook. The unstoppable 1,000-meter blade light fell like a divine blade and was accompanied by a rapid crack in the ground. Hundreds and thousands of ancient corpses that were blocking the way were all smashed into pieces. Such a powerful force. Wang Li, Wu Yan, and the others were secretly shocked. Even Chu Hen could not help but squint his eyes. He was indeed worthy of being ranked on the reputation list. A casual attack was so terrifying. "Let's go." Qiu Xingyi took the lead, and like a sheep, he led the others forward to attack. The Wuzong disciples hurriedly followed behind. "Move faster," Wu Yan shouted in a stern voice. As they were breaking out of the encirclement, ancient corpses kept rushing over to harass them. Chu Hen, Wang Li, and the others continuously blocked them and covered for the others. After all, most of them were elite disciples selected by the sect. Everyone was panicking, but they were not in a mess, and soon they came together. "It's about time for us to go," Zhao Qingyi said in a deep voice. "Yes," Chu Hen nodded. While blocking the attacks of the ancient corpses, he fought and retreated at the same time. Wang Li, Wu Yan, Long Xuanshuang, Yi Yao, and the Zhao siblings followed behind the main group. Within the dense fog, all kinds of violent and chaotic shockwaves were constantly surging out. Relying on Qiu Xingyi's strength, the Wu Zone group in front did not stop at all. The speed at which they broke out of the encirclement was very fast, like a giant sword, directly piercing through the dense fog where the sun could not be seen. The speed at which Chu Hen, Wang Li, and the others covered at the back was obviously slower. After all, they had to continuously clear and resist the waves of ancient corpses, so it was very slow. In particular, the ancient corpses were not weak, and there were even powerful ancient Eternal Realm monsters. After a round of intense battle, Chu Hen's side had pulled quite a bit of distance away from the troops in front. Don't be obsessed with fighting. Fighting against these mindless things, there is no sense of accomplishment at all, Wang Li said in a deep voice. I know, but there are a few evil creatures chasing after us, which are really annoying. Wu Yin punched a headless giant corpse that was holding a giant spear, and at the same time, a dazzling blue light pattern appeared on his body. The beautiful and luxurious blue light pattern quickly gathered in front of him and immediately compressed into a crystal-clear rhombus-shaped energy body. Star Chest Seal. Wu Yin raised her hand and flicked it outwards. In an instant, from magnificent star jades that shone as bright as the stars in the sky shot out like divine arrows. Hiss, hiss, the continuous sharp wind-breaking sound made people's eardrums tremble. The four magnificent star jades directly attacked the joints of the giant corpse's limbs. Chapter 1276. Shrill roars could be heard in the dark fog. The first day of the Holy War. Less than half a minute after entering the Chaos Devil domain, what welcomed the martial sect disciples was an overwhelming horde of zombies. Fortunately, Qiu Xingyi was able to judge the current situation in time. Without any delay, he broke through the encirclement at the fastest speed. The disciples of the martial sect were like a mighty dragon as they rapidly passed through the dense fog, heading deeper into the Chaos Demon domain. After an unknown amount of time, the fog gradually became thinner. Although the sky was still dark and the sun could not be seen, the range of vision had greatly increased. The zombies that were chasing them were also slowly left behind. Looking at the vast land, the frontline troops, and Wang Li, who was covering the rear, Wu Yin and the others heaved a sigh of relief. We finally made it through without any mishaps. Zhao Qingyi wiped the sweat on her forehead and said, Yes, fortunately, we left in time. If we were to fall into their encirclement, I'm afraid the consequences would be unimaginable. Wu Yin echoed in a deep voice. She turned to look at Chu Hen, who was not far away. Her eyes revealed a hint of admiration. Along the way, Chu Hen had almost killed half of the ancient corpses by himself. Even if he and Wang Li were joined forces, they could not compare to one person. Wu Yin could not help but be amazed. Senior Qiu and the others have gone a little far. We need to speed up, Wang Li reminded. Everyone was startled. They turned around and looked. At this moment, the martial sect's troops were almost out of sight. In the area ahead, other than the scattered zombies, they could not see their shadows. Go! Wu Yin did not hesitate to speed up with the others. At this moment, a strong wave of power suddenly came from the left side. Everyone was startled and subconsciously looked to the side. Dozens of figures with imposing auras were fighting fiercely against a group of ancient corpses. Although the number of ancient corpses was several times that of the human group. But looking from afar, it was obvious that the human experts had the upper hand. They are. Wu Yan's eyes narrowed. Her face could not help but reveal a trace of coldness. It's people from the Imperial Sword Gate, Zhao Qingyi said solemnly. These people were none other than the disciples of the Imperial Sword School, led by Lu Qian. The swords were like flying rain, beautiful and dazzling. Every one of them was exuding a powerful and sharp sword aura. The huge net formed by the interweaving sword auras tore the ancient monster corpses into pieces. The already decayed limbs flew around and were thrown everywhere. Lu Qian wielded a thick, blunt, an edgeless heavy sword and launched a series of violent collisions with a huge ferocious creature. It was a huge insect that was over 1,000 feet long, covered in a carapace, and had 8 pincers. Dark green venom spewed out of its giant mouth as it swung its claws at Lu Qian. "Ha! You evil creatures dare bare your fangs and brandish your claws in front of me." Lu Qian sneered. He raised the edgeless heavy sword in his hand, and the boundless sword light covering it rapidly expanded and elongated, turning into a peerlessly powerful sky measuring ruler. "Get down!" His aura was monstrous, like thunder. The sky measuring ruler heavily smashed down on the giant insect evil creature's head. With a muffled explosion, the giant monster's head, as well as the carapace on its back, directly caved in. Dark, rotting blood immediately burst out. The giant insect monster fell to the ground, its limbs and sharp claws all lying on the ground. "Oomph! Can't even withstand a single blow." A disdainful and arrogant smile spread across Lu Qian's face. At the same time, the other disciples of the Imperial Sword School also took out their treasured swords. Buzz, along with the soft hum of the sharp swords, all of the treasured swords soared into the sky, turning into countless condensed and gorgeous sword rain. Then, like 10,000 swords returning to their origin, the sky full of sword light swept up a desolate aura, all slashing towards the giant insect monster below. Bang! The sword rain poured down, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth. Along with a rapidly exploding crater on the ground, the huge insect monster's body was directly smashed by the boundless sword light beams. Its 100-foot body exploded into pieces that filled the sky. "How ruthless!" Zhao Qingyi, who was watching from afar, lightly frowned and said. Wang Li, Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and the others also slightly frowned. Although the giant insect monster was a product of death energy, the people of the Imperial Sword School's methods were indeed ruthless and extraordinarily vicious. Then, the giant insect monster that was smashed into pieces exploded between heaven and earth. The fierce and chaotic sword rain continuously surged in all directions. Just then, an object flickering with a crystalline blue light actually flew out from the place where the monster had disappeared. Lu Qian gently raised one hand. Without hesitation, that ball of crystal-clear soft light entered his palm, like a pearl in the palm of his hand. "What is that?" A few martial ancestor disciples revealed looks of surprise. Wang Li, Wu Yin, and the others were also slightly confused. At the same time, the people of the Imperial Sword School also discovered the existence of the martial ancestor disciples. Glancing at them from afar, the mockery on Lu Qian's face became even more intense. "Hey, it's really fate. We just arrived, and we already met." The other disciples of the Imperial Sword School also revealed disdainful sneers. "Looks like we have something to do. Senior brother Lu Qian, shouldn't we do something?" Feeling the unfriendly gazes of the people of the Imperial Sword School, Wu Yin, Zhao Qingyi, and the others could not help but lightly clench their fists, their eyes revealing a solemn expression. However, Lu Qian merely glanced at them and laughed disdainfully. "There's no need to waste time on these trash. Let's go meet up with Senior Brother San Yi first." After saying that, Lu Qian directly turned around and left without looking back. The other disciples of the Imperial Sword School also gave him frivolous looks of disdain, then turned around and left one after another. They were directly ignored. This kind of contempt was even more displeasing than coming to find fault with them. However, there were also a few people who slightly heaved a sigh of relief. Although Wang Li, Wu Yin, and Chu Hen were all here, there was still a large disparity in numbers. Once they fought, they would most likely be at a disadvantage. In addition, Lu Qian was known as the number one person below the honor list. He was powerful, and no one here could compare to him. They turned around and left. It could be considered a good situation. "Let's go," Wang Li said. Wu Yin lightly heaved a sigh of relief and could only nod helplessly. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly said, "You guys go first, I'll be right back." "What?" Everyone's hearts were shocked, especially Long Xuan and Yi Yao. Their delicate eyebrows slightly furrowed, a trace of worry surging in their eyes. "Where are you going?" Wu Yin asked in a deep voice. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth slightly raised as he smiled indifferently. I'm a little curious about that thing. I'll be back soon. Chapter 1277. The vast and boundless wasteland was desolate and desolate as far as the eye could see. In the distance, there were broken walls and luxuriant grass. Occasionally, a few scattered zombies could be seen crawling on the ground. The decaying, evil creature that had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years was awakened by the disturbance from the outside world. I didn't expect the martial sect to have the guts to participate in the Holy War. Last time, they were almost annihilated. It seems like they won't give up until their sect is annihilated. However, that woman from the Huanyu Palace, Hua Shi, said that senior brother Luo Lu died in the hands of the martial sect. Is that true? It's fake, right? Didn't we already confirm it? That guy called Wu Yin probably can't even take one move from senior brother Lu Qian. How could he kill senior brother Luo Lu? That's true. The martial sect is getting worse. If we weren't in a hurry to meet up with senior brother Sinyi, I'd like to see those useless people kneel and beg for mercy. As the dozens of people from the Imperial Sword sect flew forward, they also looked at the group of people from the martial sect with extreme disdain. The leader, Lu Qian, raised the corner of his mouth and his eyes were filled with arrogance. He raised his left hand and looked at his palm. A bright blue body of light shone brightly. The body of light was about the size of a child's fist, and its shape was irregular. There were edges and corners, and the lines were clear. It gave people a feeling that it was not complete. Buzz! Suddenly, everyone from the Imperial Sword Gate was startled, and they stopped in unison. In the void in front of them, a young figure with a restrained aura suddenly appeared. His slender figure and his eyes were as deep as the sea of stars. He looked at them with an indifferent expression, and the corner of his mouth curled into a playful smile. Who are you? How dare you block the way here? He seems to be from the martial sect. He was with those people just now. Interesting. He came here alone to die? You blind fool. If you don't want to be with the zombies here, get lost immediately. Chu Hen crossed his arms in front of him as he faced the stern reprimands of the Imperial Sword Gate. His brows were slightly raised as he glanced sideways. Aren't you looking for me? Looking for you? Everyone was startled, and then they sneered even more. Who do you think you are? Is it worth us looking for you? Hee. Rather than looking for you, why don't we look for those women from your martial sect? They are quite handsome. Chu Hen said with a faint smile, a hint of mockery in his eyes. Before Luo Lu died, he was just as arrogant and proud as you are now. What? Everyone's expression changed. Even Lu Qian's gaze darkened. You killed Luo Lu? His ice-cold gaze was like a sharp arrow that shot straight at the handsome young man's face. He was sure that the other party was not one of the famous geniuses of the martial sect. Even in the information he had, there was no information about this person. At this moment, not only did the other party come to block their path alone, he even admitted to killing Luo Lu. His intentions were truly puzzling and perplexing. After that, Chu Hen raised his right hand and pointed at the lustrous blue body of energy in Lu Qian's palm. How about giving it to me? Everyone held onto their swords with one hand, and their blades were about to be unsheathed. Lu Qian's expression swiftly turned as cold as ice, and the corners of his mouth drew back to reveal an icy cold smile. He, of course, but you have to use your head in exchange. Chu Hen shook his head lightly. Then can all of your heads be exchanged for it? You're courting death. A ghastly cold gale filled the sky like frost, and the killing intent in Lu Qian's eyes rose abruptly as he shouted word by word. Kill him. That's exactly what I intend to do. Before he finished speaking, all the disciples of the Imperial Sword Gate instantly drew their swords, and all of them emanated an extremely piercingly cold and sharp sword aura as they surrounded Chu Hen from all directions. Sword-light phantoms tore through the air. With every swing of the sword, a powerful sword cry reverberated in the air. Die! A ruthless figure with sharp sword chi was the first to charge before Chu Hen, and the tip of the sword that was coiled with endless patterns of light headed straight for the vital point of Chu Hen's throat. The powerful sword chi pressure surged over like a surging tide. Looking at the motionless Chu Hen, that person's face was filled with disdain. Useless trash. Whoosh! A clear sword cry reverberated in the air. Just at the instant when the sword tip was less than the width of a finger from Chu Hen's throat, Chu Hen left an afterimage on the spot like a ghost, and his body instantly vanished on the spot. What? That person's pupils constricted, and his expression abruptly changed. Immediately after, an icy cold current assaulted him from behind, and a palm covered with traces of lightning arcs lightly descended on that person's back like a feather. The palm slowly descended, and then slowly raised. It looked gentle and smooth. There wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of energy. It was a silent attack. But in the next instant, a dull, heavy sound came from the Imperial Sword Gate disciple's body. His back directly caved in, and then the clothes in front of his chest exploded into pieces, along with a large mouthful of blood. That person was like a bird whose internal organs had been smashed. He fell from the sky powerlessly and smashed onto the ground, turning into a pile of mud. At the same time, another sharp sword pierced towards Chu Hen's left side. The sword was like the wind, and it was piercingly cold. However, Chu Hen didn't even turn his head. He raised one hand, and a condensed and beautiful dark blue lightning beam immediately burst out from his left palm. The sharp lightning beam was like a divine light sword that could break through anything. This, along with a piercing sound, the other party's sword momentum didn't even touch Chu Hen's body before his heart was directly penetrated by the powerful lightning beam. The lightning beam that penetrated that person's body continued to descend through the void and continuously penetrated the chests of 4 or 5 Imperial Sword Gate disciples. Bastard! The other Imperial Sword Gate disciples were shocked and furious, and the killing intent that erupted from them became even stronger. I want you to die without a complete corpse. One of them was furious. He raised his hand and slashed towards Chu Hen's head. The sword momentum was as fast as the wind, and it was extremely vicious. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes slanted, and he condensed his hand. The manic lightning beam rapidly gathered towards his palm, and a ball of incomparably violent lightning interweaved together, like a lightning source. Bang! The manic lightning source that gathered in Chu Hen's palm directly collided with the other party's sword momentum. A violent explosion sounded, and the sword light around that person's body was the first to explode. Then, the entire longsword also broke into several pieces. That person's pupils violently shrank. Before he could react, Chu Hen had already pushed the source of lightning in his palm to charge forward. The lightning power with rapid lethality was like an electric blade that was condensed together. With an unstoppable force, it cut into the center of his opponent's chest. Chi-chi! A sharp and impassioned long whistle sounded out, and the lightning in Chu Hen's hand penetrated that person's body. Scarlet blood splattered, and shock and fear spread. The faces of all the Imperial Sword Gate disciples turned pale. They had no power to resist at all. With this level of strength, you still dare to cause trouble at the entrance of our martial sect? The light laughter caused people's scalps to go numb. The Imperial Sword Gate disciple whose chest was penetrated by the lightning source widened his eyes, and he slid down from the sky with extreme fear. On the other hand, the lightning power in Chu Hen's palm became more and more violent. It was like a blossoming lightning flower, and an endless stream of lightning bolts wandered around Chu Hen's palm. The aura of destruction spread in all directions. He looked at Lu Qian with a mocking and indifferent gaze. The latter's eyes were also burning with the raging flames of hatred. He condensed a single palm, and a heavy sword without an edge appeared in his hand. Then, he raised a monstrous and majestic aura and pounced towards Chu Hen. Bastard, see if I don't smash your head into pieces. The ferocious and surging aura was like a storm that could destroy mountains and rivers. The heavy sword in Lu Qian's hand shone with a black light, and flames rose up as it transformed into a huge ruler that could measure the heavens. The huge ruler smashed down like a collapsing heavenly pillar. Chu Hen sneered, and lightning flickered in his eyes. He raised his palm that was covered with endless lightning, and the violent lightning source in his palm rapidly expanded. Countless strong lightning pillars interweaved into a ball and immediately condensed into a lightning ball with a diameter of several tens of meters. Clang! The huge ruler that could measure the heavens smashed heavily on the lightning ball with a momentum that could split mountains and split the earth. The moment the two collided, it was comparable to the explosion of stars and meteorites. Endless violent energy seemed to explode in the sky, and countless lightning pillars bloomed in the sky. It was as beautiful as the heavenly net divine tribulation. Boom! The heaven and earth trembled, and a violent shock wave that could topple mountains and overturn the seas caused the rocks below to collapse and the ground to crack. All the nearby Imperial Swordgate disciples were sent flying by the impact. The violent shock wave that howled through the heavens swept in all directions. Lu Qian's eyes were as gloomy as a ferocious beast's, and he fiercely glared at the young figure in front of him in the storm vortex. He actually blocked it, and it was so easy. At the same time, Chu Hen's body suddenly shone with a dazzling blue light pattern. A dense and gentle holy light appeared, and the airflow between heaven and earth moved rhythmically. Chu Hen's palms faced each other, and tens of thousands of luxurious light patterns converged, and at an extremely fast speed, they formed a rhombus-shaped crystal that radiated light in all directions. Looking at the blue crystal that emitted a powerful aura, Lu Qian's pupils shrank again. Magnificent Star Jade? Chapter 1278. Luo Lu really died in your hands. Looking at the blue diamond-shaped crystal in Chu Hen's palms, Lu Qian's expression changed. At this moment, he no longer had any doubts. Among the martial sect members, there was still a third person who had learned the North Star art. Star Battle Seal. Chu Hen's eyes shone brightly. Swish! The rapid, whistling sound of air currents surged in the void. In an instant, a beam of stunning blue starlight streaked across the sky and dragged a long aurora trail in the air, sweeping up a murderous momentum that could penetrate everything as it blasted towards Lu Qian's location. The aurora was like a shuttle, piercing through the sky. Lu Qian's eyes were as cold as frost. He held the edgeless, heavy sword in one hand, and the black light that covered the sword was as deep and gloomy as ink. The rapidly brewing power was like a mountain shaking the heavens. Break for me! The divine might of the heavy sword that had the strength to pull out tens of thousands of kilograms shook the heavens, and a wave of true essence that furiously shook the nine heavens rose up like a tsunami. The heavy sword swept out, directly striking the magnificent star jade that was overflowing with light. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the sky. The domineering and majestic sword light collided with the flying aurora. The power that erupted was like a nebula exploding, and a chaotic and majestic aura swept through the air. The sky was filled with dazzling blue light and shadow fragments mixed with vigorous black sword chi, covering the surroundings. In the chaotic energy flow, Lu Qian's aura did not decrease, but instead increased. He was as fierce as a wild beast. The North Star art is only so. Is that so? Then what about now? An indifferent voice rang out from Chu Hen's mouth. Astonishingly, 5 dazzling, magnificent star jades appeared in front of him. Every star jade shone like a peerless pearl, and a huge amount of power was compressed within. 5-star battle seal. Swish without any hesitation. The 5 pieces of magnificent star jade floating in front of Chu Hen once again transformed into 5 breathtaking and outstanding aurora flying shuttles, exploding out. Like a meteor chasing the moon, the airflow in the world became extremely chaotic. As they moved, the 5 pieces of magnificent star jade quickly lined up in a straight line. Tens of thousands of rays of light flickered, and the rays of light rapidly became sharp and sharp. The rapid whirlpools of light converged in front of them, forming spiral-shaped chi patterns. Its powerful aura was just like the arrow of God that came from another plane. Lu Qian's face turned pale. Traces of unease spread across his face. He did not have any chance to dodge, and all the quintessential origin power in his body burst forth. He held the edgeless, heavy sword in his hand horizontally in front of him, and a circular black halo immediately appeared in front of him. Boom! The divine light beam formed by the 5 rays of magnificent star, Jade, struck the center of Lu Qian's edgeless, heavy sword in front of him with the momentum of a meteor falling from the heavens. In an instant, the space trembled endlessly, and tens of thousands of rays of light continuously struck the black arc. The violent energy destroyed heaven and earth, exploding the entire area, like the wind and rain, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Then bang! A violent and heavy sound rang out, and the black arc of light in front of Lu Qian burst into thousands of fragments like bubbles. Lu Qian's pupils rapidly shrank to the size of a needle, and his entire face was reflected in a sparkling and translucent blue color. Bang! Rays of blue light shot into the sky and illuminated the ground. The terrifying energy that was comparable to the explosion of a star swept out in all directions. The ground below cracked inch by inch, and layers of it were sent flying. The surrounding disciples of the Imperial Sword School were all shocked, and their faces were pale. What a terrifying power! There were only 6 magnificent star jade, but it already had such power. It was truly shocking. The power that could destroy everything spread in all directions. Then, a figure that was as fierce as a wolf charged out of the raging storm. The people of the Imperial Sword School were shocked once again. Lu Qian was covered in blood, and his body was covered in cuts and bruises. Even his clothes and hair were especially messy. Only 7 magnificent star jade? His furious voice was like the roar of a wild beast. His eyes were red, and his aura was monstrous. That's really a pity. Profound, heavy slash. He raised his sword, and a ferocious arc-shaped sword light was like a layer of raging waves that charged down. Chu Hen's figure flashed, and at the same time he retreated, boundless, dazzling lightning flowed around his body. 7 magnificent star jade is enough to kill you. Rumble. In an instant, the sky changed color, and the wind and clouds converged. In the middle of the night, a thunderstorm surged like a tide, and countless violent and terrifying lightning bolts spread out like a huge net in the next moment. A few tens of majestic and shocking lightning pillars poured down, and they were comparable to divine punishments that descended from the heavens. They intertwined with each other and enveloped the area below. The might of 1,000 caddies destroyed everything. Amidst the lightning net that shone in the sky, a lightning trident that was emitting lightning bolts suddenly charged out. Have a safe trip. Skylight Blade. The lightning halberd that shook the heavens and the earth was like a divine pillar that could destroy the world. Lu Qian's expression changed drastically, and all the disciples of the Imperial Sword School turned pale with fright. Bang! A heavy vibration that howled through the heavens and the earth spread out in the air. The lightning that filled the sky was like a blossoming meteor shower, extending for dozens of miles. The wild lightning that was recklessly released struck the bodies of the other disciples of the Imperial Sword School in a disorderly manner. Miserable screams rang out one after another. One after another, they were blasted into smithereens. Under numerous gazes that were filled with shock, the lightning halberd directly pierced through Lu Qian's back with a momentum that could pierce through the heavens. Warm scarlet blood danced in the air. Lu Qian's back was already a bloody mess, his organs shattered, and all his bones broken. As he looked at the figure in front of him, the hatred and resentment in his eyes quickly turned into thick unwillingness and fear. The abyss of death rapidly approached. Life continuously flowed out of Lu Qian's eyes. The number 1 person on the honor list. Without any warning, his soul was severed here. Bang! Lu Qian's corpse heavily smashed into the ground. The other disciples of the Imperial Sword School who were lucky enough to survive were all scared out of their wits. All of them trembled, and none of their previous arrogance and complacency. Go, quickly informed senior brother Sanye. However, How could Chu Hen give them a way out? Less than 2 seconds after he turned around, a ball of purple flames rose out of nowhere and enveloped the remaining few people. After a short and mournful wail, they were instantly turned into fine ashes that dissipated between heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Imperial Sword School disciples were completely annihilated. Swish! Chu Hen's figure moved and flashed down below. At the same time, a few hurried auras flew over. Big Brother Chu Hen is over there. The newcomers were Yi Yao, Long Xuan, and Wu Yan. I say, Junior Brother Chu Hen, aren't you a little too fast? We can't even catch up to you. Wu Yan said somewhat helplessly as the three of them landed one after another. What's going on? What happened? Looking at the chaotic environment and the remnant berserk auras in the air, the three of them revealed puzzled expressions. It was obvious that an intense battle had just taken place here. Following that, Wu Yan's gaze shifted towards the front of Chu Hen. When he saw the broken corpse that had died with grievances, his pupils abruptly shrank. Chapter 1279. Lu Qian. When Wu Yan saw the extremely broken corpse on the ground in front of Chu Hen, whose eyes were wide open, her face suddenly changed greatly. Following that, she looked at Chu Hen's calm face and felt a huge wave in her heart. You are. At the same time, Yi Yao and Long Xuan, who were beside her, were also shocked. Even the Yin-Yang beast Noni, who was following behind Yi Yao, let out a soft meow. Looking around, other than Lu Qian, there were also the corpses of the other disciples of the Imperial Sword sect. All of them had died on the spot, and not many of them had intact corpses. How long had it been? Less than half a minute ago, these people were still looking at the martial sect with disdain. In the blink of an eye, they were completely annihilated. The number one person on the honor list? They had died without any dignity. Junior Brother Chu Hen, did you do all this? Wu Yan asked in a low voice. However, as soon as she said it, she knew that her question was unnecessary. Within a radius of tens of miles, there was no one else other than the few of them. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly. With a move of his palm, a strong suction force was released from his hand. Swoosh! Following that, a sparkling and translucent light flew out from Lu Qian's body. Chu Hen reached out and caught it in his palm. Wu Yan, Long Xuan, and Yi Yao's eyes lit up and they all looked at him in surprise. It was a strange energy body about the size of a child's fist. It had edges and corners, but it was not regular or neat. There was a strange pure power surging inside. Wisps of soft light gave off a mysterious aura. What is this? Yi Yao asked curiously. They had all seen this item before. When the people of the Imperial Sword sect killed the giant worm monster, this item had dropped from its body. Chu Hen had chased after Lu Qian and the others because of this item. I feel that this is what we were looking for, Chu Hen said softly after a slight hesitation. What was he looking for? What is it? The three of them did not understand. Wu Yan's eyelids twitched, and she subconsciously blurted out, could it be the key? Key? The two women were even more surprised when they heard that. This is the key. It's possible, Chu Hen affirmed. The main point of this holy war was the key. From information obtained in the 10,000 Bell City, one could find out that the key could open the numerous ruins from 10,000 years ago in the Chaos Devil world. Why do you think so? Long Xuan asked in confusion. Chu Hen glanced at Lu Qian from the corner of his eyes. When we were passing through the fog, we were escaping from the monster's pursuit in the form of a retreat. As for these people from the Imperial Sword sect, it seems like they are purposely looking for those monsters. As soon as he said this, the three of them couldn't help but come to a realization. In other words, they knew beforehand that the giant worm monster had this thing on its body. Long Xuan replied. Chu Hen nodded, agreeing with the other party's thoughts. Judging from the way the people from the Imperial Sword sect killed the giant worm monster, it was obvious they were targeting it. Especially when the energy body flew out of the monster's body after it died. Lu Qian naturally kept it in his pocket. He did not even observe it carefully. This was enough to prove that Lu Qian was not surprised by the thing on the giant worm monster's body. It seems like the Imperial Sword Sect has obtained more information than us. As soon as they entered the ruins of the Chaos Devil world, they began to look for the key everywhere. Wu Yan's eyes were solemn. Compared to the other sects and forces, the martial sect was at a disadvantage. When the others were already looking for the key, they did not even know what the key looked like. However, it was fortunate that Chu Hen was more meticulous. Not only did Lu Qian and the others work for them, but they even lost their lives. It was a great irony. Was this really the key? It feels a little weird. Yao looked doubtful. If I'm not wrong, this should be a fragment of the key. Chu Hen continued. Fragment? While she was surprised, she carefully observed the energy crystal in Chu Hen's hand. One side was neat and had clear edges and corners, while the other side was irregular and had a crooked shape. It looked quite incomplete. It does look like a part of something. Wu Yan nodded and said, It's just a fragment. I was happy for nothing. Yao pouted and could not help but feel a little disappointed. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. In this holy war, the existence of the key is very important. It's naturally difficult to collect it. We've only been here for less than half a day. It's already very good to be able to get a fragment. That's true. I was too greedy. Chu Hen rubbed her head and immediately asked, Where are the others? I asked Wang Li and the others to meet up with senior brother Qiu. Wu Yan replied, Let's not delay and catch up with them. The others nodded in agreement. Then, they flew in the direction they had come from. Chaos Devil Domain, savage, desolate, ancient land. At first glance, the lush green mountains were like a blue sea. Ancient city buildings could be seen in the depths of the vast plains. Every inch of this place exuded an ancient aura. At the same time, there were countless ancient and mysterious forces in this barren land that had existed for 10,000 years. In the void, Chu Hen, Wu Yan, Long Xuan, Yao, and the Yinyang beast Noni headed south towards the martial sect's main force. However, at this moment, Chu Hen suddenly slowed down and stopped. The three of them looked back and asked in confusion, What's wrong, brother? Chu Hen. Chu Hen frowned slightly and did not answer. Instead, he raised his hand and took out the energy fragment that he had just obtained. What was surprising was that the energy fragment, which had not moved a moment ago, was now glowing with a strange light that flickered between bright and dark. The soft blue brilliance fluctuated between strong and weak, exuding an obscure energy fluctuation. This is... The three of them were startled. What's going on? Wu Yan asked in a deep voice. Chu Hen paused for a moment and then pointed in another direction. There seems to be a strange reaction over there. Oh? The three of them looked in that direction. Could it be a reaction from the other fragments? Long Xuan said uncertainly. We can't rule out this possibility. Chu Hen's eyes flashed with some light. Should we go and take a look? Yao asked. But we have already wasted a lot of time. If we don't go and meet up with senior brother Qiu and the others, I'm afraid we will continue to fall behind. Wu Yan hesitated. Similarly, if it was really a response from the other fragments, leaving this time would directly cause him to lose the chance to obtain the complete key. What should they choose? Let's collect the key. Although it was difficult, Wu Yan quickly made a decision. The Holy War was mainly about the key. If the four of them could bring back the complete key, it would definitely be better than going back empty-handed. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen and the two girls looked at each other. Immediately after, their bodies moved. The three people and one beast immediately changed their direction and headed towards another unknown path. High walls were built, and the city tower was 300 meters tall. This was a desolate and uninhabited ancient city. Although there were ruins everywhere in the city, it was still majestic and majestic. Towering buildings in the city towered into the sky, towering like the stars in the sky. It was as if every inch of the wide streets and every majestic building was telling the story of how prosperous it used to be. In the central area of the city, there was a very majestic, large stone platform. The stone platform was connected by spacious steps. There were 7 large stone pillars erected on the platform. There were 3 on the east and 3 on the west. The one on the north was the most majestic, and it was 300 meters tall. From afar, The stone platform was connected with the spirit energy of the 9 heavens and the spirit energy of the earth. It was like a pilgrimage altar for an emperor to ascend to the throne. Every stone pillar was engraved with a different strange beast pattern. On the largest stone pillar in the middle, there was also the pattern of an unusually ferocious beast. The beast looked like a tiger, but the pattern on its forehead was not the word king. Instead, it was similar to the pattern of the Tai Chi Yin and Yang diagram. It looked very majestic. At this moment, there were already many people gathered on the high platform. All of them released their auras that were as sharp as swords. The air was filled with a sharp aura that caused one's heart to palpitate. Lu Ming Hong, your profound Yang palace came quite quickly. The person who spoke was a young man dressed in black. His face was slightly pale. Opposite him was a group of people from the profound Yang palace led by Lu Ming Hong. Beside Lu Ming Hong was the fatal elegance Lu Wuyue. She was as proud as a heaven's proud daughter, and as noble as a noble. Qin Shui. Lu Ming Hong smiled and glanced at the crowd. Your heaven-condensing pavilion is not slow. Listening to the conversation between the two, the other people hiding nearby were secretly shocked. Even Lu Ming Hong and Qin Shui are here. This place is not going to be peaceful. Both of them are top geniuses on the honor list. I'm afraid we won't be able to get any benefits today. There was also a person standing behind Qin Shui. That person's aura was as sharp as a knife. Junior Sister Lu, long time no see. How have you been? A frivolous smile spread across his face. Lu Wuyue snorted disdainfully. Li Yinxing, do I know you very well? Chapter 1280. Junior Sister Lu, I'm a little sad to hear that. After all, we fought side by side in the immortal and devil tomb. The person who said that was none other than the 10-feathered demonic blade, Li Yinxing. Lu Wuyu was still very disdainful of Li Yinxing's attempt to get close to her. She smirked, but she did not take it seriously. There were many people in the immortal and devil tomb at that time. Which one of them were you? Li Yinxing was not angry. He replied playfully, after not seeing you for so long, Junior Sister Lu, you haven't changed at all. You have such high standards that you can't even see me anymore. Cut the crap. The other half of the key is in your hands, right? Lu Wuyu's voice was slightly cold. As soon as she said that, the expressions of the people inside and outside the high platform froze. Their eyes were filled with emotion. Li Yinxing raised his brows slightly and looked at the genius on the wind cloud list, Qin Shui. The latter's sickly pale face did not show any emotion at all. He looked straight at Lu Ming Hong, who was standing next to Lu Wuyu. Looks like you've also obtained a part of it. Lu Ming Hong smiled frivolously. Then he raised his hand and flipped it. An energy ball that looked like a spirit jade landed in his hand. Where's yours? Here it is. Qin Shui did not keep them in suspense. He also flipped his palm, and a luxurious and dazzling crystal ball appeared in the air. The two crystals that shone with a blue light were like the stars and the moon competing for brilliance. When the other people in the city saw this object, their heartstrings were instantly stirred, and their hearts were filled with the impulse to rush forward and snatch it. However, Qin Shui and Lu Ming Hong were both top geniuses on the wind cloud list. The people from other sects and forces did not dare to act rashly. Qin Shui and Lu Ming Hong stared at the key fragment in each other's hands. Then, both of them frowned. There are other fragments, Qin Shui said in a deep voice. Li Yinxing, Lu Wuyu, and the others narrowed their eyes. Although the two key fragments occupied a large part of the key, it was obvious that they could not be pieced together to form a complete key. In other words, the two of them together could not open the 10,000-year-old ruin hidden in this ancient city. Many people were very disappointed. However, at this moment, the key fragments in their hands suddenly glowed with a strange and intense light. The light was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. When it was strong, it was gorgeous and dazzling. When it was weak, it was dense like mist. In an instant, Qin Shui and Lu Ming Hong looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. It seems like the other part is coming. Lu Ming Hong's gaze turned cold, revealing traces of a sharp and domineering aura. Xiao. At the same time, A few beams of light streaked across the sky above the vast, ancient city. Everyone turned to look at the source of the sound. Hua! A ripple-like airwave spread out in the air, and four young figures with extraordinary auras immediately flashed down from the south end of the high platform. Behind them, there was a black and white kitten beast. Chu Hen and the others couldn't help but feel a little surprised when they sensed the strange gazes around them. Ah, you delivered yourself to my doorstep so quickly. A cold laugh came out from Lu Minghong's mouth. At the same time, beside him, Lu Yue's face was already covered in frost. Big brother Chu Hen, it's them, Yao said in a low voice with a slightly solemn expression. Chu Hen had already discovered the profound Yang Palace's group. When his gaze met Lu Minghong's, there seemed to be invisible air currents colliding in the air. Enemies really were on a narrow road. Holy war summoning. He didn't expect to meet them on the first day. I seem to have seen this person somewhere before. A doubtful voice came from the Qi Shao Pavilion's group. 10-feathered demon blade, Li Yinqing stared at the slowly walking Chu Hen with some astonishment. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the young figure in front of him was very familiar. But at the moment, he couldn't think of a scene where he had any contact with the other party. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. As Chu Hen continued to get closer, the light emitted by the key fragments in Qin Shui and Lu Minghong's hands became stronger and stronger, and the energy ripples it emitted became stronger and stronger. This scene had already explained everything. It can't be wrong. There are still some key fragments on them. A cry of surprise suddenly came from the crowd outside the arena. This cry was like a heavy hammer that broke the anxious atmosphere. It was more like a bugle call for war. In an instant, a manic and uneasy aura immediately leaked out from the surroundings of the high platform. Whoosh! As his voice fell, Li Yinqing from the Qi Shao Pavilion's group was the first to charge out like an arrow leaving the bow. He exploded with the momentum of sharp blade and directly swept in front of Chu Hen. His ice-cold eyes were filled with coldness as he raised his hand and reached for Chu Hen's face. Thank you for personally delivering the last fragment to me. Not good. Everyone present was terrified. There was no chance to fight at all, and in an instant, it had become the Qi Shao Pavilion's possession. In the face of Li Yinqing's sharp aura, there was not the slightest bit of panic in Chu Hen's eyes. It was even as calm as the water in an ancient well. Just as the other party's attack was about to touch its target, Chu Hen's body slightly leaned to the side, and Li Yinqing's palm directly brushed past his left cheek. He dodged. Everyone outside the arena was shocked. Li Yinqing's eyes were suffused with a cold light. Then, with a flick of his wrist, his arm immediately turned into a palm blade and slashed at Chu Hen's neck. However, at the same time, with a buzz, a powerful wave of air rippled out in the air, and Li Yinqing's sharp aura instantly fell into a state of stillness. The expressions of the surrounding people could not help but change, only to see that the other party's arm had been firmly grabbed by Chu Hen. What? Li Yinqing's pupils shrank in shock. Without waiting for him to react, Chu Hen's figure leaned back, then raised his right leg and firmly kicked the other party's abdomen. Bang! A dull, heavy sound rang out, and Li Yinqing's body bent over. Like a lobster, he was sent flying for nearly 100 meters before crashing into a stone pillar on the north side of the high platform. The platform trembled, and cracks appeared on the bricks at the bottom of the pillar. A kick sent Li Yinqing flying. The sudden turn of events left everyone dumbfounded. Li Yinqing, who was hit, widened his eyes as he looked at the other party in disbelief. Who are you? Chu Hen looked straight at the other party, raised his left hand lightly, and replied indifferently, You can give me the 4 soul spirits with the slaughter attribute now. Boom! Huge waves surged in Li Yinqing's heart, and the scene in the immortal and devil tomb suddenly appeared in his mind. At that time, the mysterious masked woman's power was sealed by the Xianyuan seal of the War God Palace's elder, Cui Lai, who was hiding in the dark. Only one person went forward to rescue her. However, at the last moment, Li Yinqing directly killed the 2 of them with a killing move. It's you. Li Yinqing clenched his fists. While he was shocked, his eyes surged with endless coldness. "You're actually not dead?" Not only was he not dead, but his cultivation was also far stronger than before. Apart from Li Yinqing, Lu Wuyue, who was in the profound Yang Palace's team, also had a cold expression. On the other hand, Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuanchuang were surprised. They did not expect that apart from Lu Wuyue, Chu Hen also knew Li Yinqing in the past. Chapter 1281. Hand it over. Ignoring the existence of everyone around him, Chu Hen raised his hand towards Li Yinqing. His calm tone sounded as if he was flirting with him. After being shocked, Li Yinqing's expression gradually turned dark and cold. His eyes were filled with traces of bloody anger. The strange gazes around him caused Li Yinqing's heart to burn with anger. If you want to kill the four spirits of the same attribute, let's see if you have the ability. With that, Li Yinqing waved his hand, and 10 rays of light shot out from between his fingers. The 10 flowing shadows were as beautiful as sharp arrows flying through the air. Looking carefully, they were actually 10 feather-shaped daggers. In the air, they dragged out a series of vigorous aura-flowing shadows, directly aiming at various vital points on Chu Hen's body. The space rotated, and Chu Hen's eyes focused. He raised his hand, and a fierce palm force whistled out. Bang! Strong winds splashed everywhere, and waves of air filled the sky. The piercingly cold energy was like a torrent that sent the 10 flying daggers flying. However, the flying daggers that were sent flying quickly gathered together in the process of being sent flying. Light and shadow overlapped, as if wings had fused together. Then, they turned into a sharp saber that emitted endless chilliness. Clang! A loud and clear saber hum reverberated in the air. At the same time, Li Yinqing, who was leaning against the stone pillar, slammed his palm heavily on the pillar behind him. Using the strong recoil, Li Yinqing immediately leaped out. The moment he rushed out, an extremely strong and cold, killing intent erupted from his body like a tsunami. Ghost Cultivator's sacred body, Hua, along with the incomparably powerful aura, Li Yinqing's body suddenly underwent a strange change. His arms and shoulders were broad, and his black hair, as if dyed with snow, had all turned silver white. His eyes were scarlet, and even the corners of his mouth revealed 2 sharp teeth. Li Yinqing, who had directly erupted with the power of the bloodline limit, was enveloped in an astonishing fierce aura. He raised his hand, and the sharp 10-feathered saber entered his palm. His arms dragged the saber, and a blood light covered the entire blade. A terrifying saber light that spanned dozens of feet slashed towards Chu Hen. Die. This saber strike was breathtaking like a rainbow, and its murderous aura was completely revealed. However, things were different now. The powerful Li Yinqing of the past was now full of flaws in Chu Hen's eyes. Chi-chi, lightning radiance spread out, and countless gorgeous lightning radiance burst out from Chu Hen's body. Tens of thousands of wild lightning arcs interweaved in front of Chu Hen like silver snakes. Then, he raised his hand and stretched out his palm to meet Li Yinqing's monstrous aura. He clenched his 5 fingers, and the violent and powerful dark blue lightning that surrounded his body charged out like a dragon python. It let out a loud cry and collided head-on with the saber glare that Li Yinqing swung. Boom! As soon as the two met, a rain of sparks erupted in all directions. The powerful blade light released by Li Yinqing seemed to have been struck by the force of a thunderbolt. It instantly shattered into thousands of fragments of light and shadow. The expressions of everyone outside the arena changed. They could not help but be shocked by the strength of Chu Hen's strength. Even Qin Shui could not help but narrow his eyes as he muttered in a low voice, "Mysterious killer divine lightning." Immediately after, the wild and beautiful lightning seemed to spread out like a huge net. It crossed all the way, divided into streams, and enveloped Li Yinqing. The latter's pupils constricted slightly. He gripped the saber tightly with both hands, and a ring-shaped saber glare swept out. Clang! The powerful saber glare was breathtaking like a rainbow, and it cut the strong lightning in front of it in half. The broken lightning was like a dark blue tree vine. Li Yinqing's face revealed a thick, sinister expression. He then leaped up and rushed out like a bolt of lightning. He quickly passed through the broken lightning and arrived in front of Chu Hen once again. "I'm going to teach you a lesson." The saber in his hand released a myriad of dazzling rays of light. Boundless true yuan that soared into the sky rose into the air behind him. Li Yinqing's body seemed to be enveloped by a monstrous, evil aura. An extremely sharp blade, aura, furiously chopped down towards Chu Hen's head. Dot! Boom! A heavy, loud sound immediately spread out in the air. The stone tiles under Chu Hen's feet immediately shattered inch by inch. Countless deep cracks like spider webs appeared, and the shattered stones flew into the sky like a flock of startled birds. However, Chu Hen's body was still standing perfectly straight on the spot. Everyone in the audience widened their eyes as they saw an arm that was covered with beautiful lightning directly receive the peerlessly imposing and swift and fierce blade. Hua! An invisible, piercingly cold wave of air spread out in all directions. Even Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuan, who were behind Chu Hen, revealed surprised expressions. Catching Li Yinqing's ghost cultivator's saber with his bare hands, the saber power that was enough to split a mountain peak and block a river did not have any lethality in front of Chu Hen. You? Li Yinqing was also extremely shocked. He only felt that the saber in his hand was firmly sucked in by a powerful force, and he could not move. Back in the immortal devil tomb, the other party could not even catch a single slash from him. How long had it been since he became so powerful? He absolutely could not allow this to happen. Li Yinqing's face revealed a ferocious expression. The fangs at the corner of his mouth flickered with a sharp cold light. The azura ghost shadow that enveloped his body became more and more solid, as if a demonic shadow had descended to the world. A tremendous force erupted from within his body. Boom! With a loud bang, a torrent of power surged toward Chu Hen, and the platform that was more than 100 meters around the two of them was completely caved in. At the same time, Lu Wuyue, who was in the Xianyang Palace's team, had a cold look in her eyes. She looked at Chu Hen, who was unwavering under Li Yinqing's saber, and released a chill. Whoosh! Along with an incomparably scorching wave of air, 7 different colored flames rose from Lu Wuyue's body like divine clouds. It was as if she was wearing a rainbow-colored feather dress. Swish! Before the others could react, Lu Wuyue had already disappeared from where she was. Like a shadow blade, she directly passed through the air and appeared in front of the two of them. "Big brother Chu Hen, be careful." Yi Yao was shocked and subconsciously exclaimed. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he raised his hand to slap Lu Wuyue. Bam! A raging cyclone of flames exploded between the three of them like a tornado. The ferocious shockwave swept in all directions, and along with the shattered rocks, the three of them retreated backward. How despicable! Yi Yao cursed loudly. She was just about to step forward to help, but Wu Yin stopped her. "Don't be hasty." As she said that, Wu Yin glanced at Qin Shui and Lu Minghong outside the arena with a hint of wariness in her eyes. "Oomph." A faint mocking smile appeared on Chu Hen's face as he looked at the cold and arrogant Lu Wuyue. At the same time, Li Yinqing, who had been sent flying dozens of meters away by the impact, exuded a monstrous, murderous aura. Didn't you want to hunt the 4 soul spirits of the same attribute? I'll give them to you right now. A cold sneer appeared on Li Yinqing's lips. Together with an extremely powerful, murderous aura, the heaven and earth lost their color, and the clouds surged. Following that, pillars of black light that looked like giant spears pierced through the sky, sweeping towards Chu Hen with a piercingly cold, murderous aura. Chu Hen dodged to the side, and the peerlessly ferocious pillars of black light pierced deep into the arena. Buzz, then, a strange distortion appeared inside each pillar of black light, like ripples on the surface of the water. Following that, The hideous and terrifying faces of evil beasts appeared within the distorted ripples. Sunluo, gluttonous feast. Ha! There seemed to be a sharp, ear-piercing shriek in everyone's ears. However, just as Li Yinqing's voice fell, a rapid and sharp sound of rushing wind suddenly exploded forth. Crack, cheek! In the next moment, a string of bright blood splattered in the air. Li Yinqing's pupils contracted violently, and he felt a sharp pain in his right shoulder. He saw a beam of dark blue lightning penetrate his opponent's shoulder like an aurora. The violent power of lightning quickly invaded his opponent's body. Dense electric arcs immediately flowed all over Li Yinqing's body. The latter felt every inch of his meridians was in a state of numbness, and all the true origin energy he had gathered instantly became extremely scattered. The moment Li Yinqing was struck by the lightning beam, all of the blacklight pillars' auras were withdrawn and melted away, after which they completely collapsed, turning into clusters of black smoke that disappeared into the world. It's your turn. Chu Hen didn't look at Li Yinqing anymore. His indifferent gaze swept straight towards Lu Wuyue. The latter's expression darkened, and her eyes were filled with coldness. The seven-colored flame that rose into the sky was like a ball of auspicious clouds. Sunluo, heart of thorns, rumble. Stone chips flew everywhere on the huge platform, and bricks exploded. Huge thorny vines flew out from between the two of them. A powerful aura filled the sky, and the spectacular scene looked like countless giant octopus tentacles from the deep sea. What was even more shocking was that the giant thorny vines that blotted out the sky were quickly ignited with scorching flames. Like a flaming monster, they pounced towards Chu Hen. Everyone outside the arena was secretly astonished. What a beautiful combination. As expected of Lu Wuyue, she can actually combine the limits of her bloodline with the power of Sunluo so perfectly. However, in the next second, a crisp crack rang out. The magnificent giant tree's vines were forcibly cut apart by a fierce impact. Countless giant vines were directly torn apart from the middle, and they were split in half. What was this? Everyone's hearts trembled. Lu Wuyue was also shocked. Ha! You used the same move twice. Miss Lu, are you at your wit's end? A frivolous sneer rang out, and a young figure with dazzling lightning revolving around his body charged out of the countless flaming vines like a blade of lightning. A string of dazzling lightning flashed through the air, and Chu Hen arrived in front of Lu Wuyue at the speed of light. His right arm, which was covered in arcs of lightning, pierced through Lu Wuyue's seven-colored flaming feather dress, and he instantly grabbed her fair and beautiful neck. Can't you just stand there obediently? Whoosh! His unshakable aura was like a towering mountain, and Chu Hen's aura crushed everyone present. Bam! A dull thump rang out, and the seven-colored flames around Lu Wuyue's body exploded like clouds before dispersing between heaven and earth. Her delicate body was lifted into the air by Chu Hen, and her face was deathly pale, as if she didn't even have the strength to struggle. Chu Hen looked down at everyone present with a disdainful expression, and his voice was as cold as a sharp arrow. Chapter 1282. Can't you tell? Right now, you're no different from a piece of trash in front of me. His words were like needles, so sharp that they almost pierced through everyone's eardrums. Lu Wuyue's face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and Chu Hen's cold eyes, which were inches away from her, pierced straight into the depths of her soul like two sharp swords. At this moment, she felt as if she had fallen into an endless abyss of ice. She, who was being strangled, could no longer muster up the will to resist. The people on the platform and hiding in the shadows of the ancient city were all shocked. In the blink of an eye, he had defeated two people in a row. Chu Hen had already dominated the entire battlefield. Right at this moment, a frosty aura quietly surged out from the profound Yang Palace's team. Let go of her. As soon as he finished speaking, an especially scorching airflow suddenly enveloped Chu Hen. Whoosh! In an instant, a layer of scorching flames ignited on Chu Hen's body. It quickly spread along the arm that was strangling Lu Wuyue, and it continuously burned Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen didn't even frown in the face of the terrifying flames that covered his body. He didn't even loosen his grip on Lu Wuyue's neck. He stared coldly at her pretty face that still had a hint of panic on it. Do you think you have the ability to protect the 4 soul spirits? The repeated blows made Lu Wuyue both shocked and angry. She had always been proud and aloof, and she had never been humiliated like this before. At this moment, she really wanted to tear Chu Hen into 1,000 pieces. However, the gap in their strength made it so that she couldn't resist at all. I told you to let go of her. At this moment, Lu Minghong's anger had reached an unstoppable level. His tall and sturdy figure soared into the sky like a ferocious tiger. Then he spread open his hand, and a violent flame surged out of his body. The mighty flame vortex quickly gathered in his palm. Buzz! In the next instant, a piercingly cold and ferocious scarlet flame blade slashed through the sky, sweeping up a fierce and powerful force as it slashed toward Chu Hen's arm and shoulder. Chu Hen looked up and raised his head. Starlight flickered in his deep eyes. He quickly raised his left palm, and together with an extremely astonishing and majestic aura, the gorgeous and luxurious starlight radiance shone brilliantly. The beautiful pattern of the Big Dipper floated in the air. Hua! A silver beam of light shot out like a star and collided head-on with the blade of the scarlet flame sword. Boom! An earth-shattering shockwave spread out above everyone's heads. The heavens and the earth changed color. Space trembled, and the starlight and crimson light that surged wantonly was like an exploding flower of flames, causing a scorching wave of air that was vast like the tide to sweep out in all directions. The floor of the high platform cracked inch by inch, and many of the nearby buildings collapsed with a loud rumble. The other onlookers all retreated. Senior Brother Shui? On the other side, the 10-feathered demon blade Li Yinqing covered his bleeding shoulder with one hand and returned to the people of Qixiao Pavilion with a cold expression. Qin Shui, another top figure on the Wind Cloud ranking, narrowed his eyes. He did not intend to take action immediately. Let's wait and see. The reckless and chaotic shockwave set off waves of chaotic airflow. Swish! Lu Minghong, who was filled with killing intent, swooped down, leaving a ghost-like figure in the air. He immediately flashed in front of Chu Hen and struck out with his palm, aiming straight for his opponent's face. Chu Hen faced the attack with one hand. At the same time, he raised his palm to meet the attack, and at the same time, strands of lightning arcs intersected above and below his palm. Bang! The two palms collided, and the sound was like a boulder colliding, and the ripples that spread out were comparable to a stormy sea. Lu Wuyue, who was the closest to them, could be said to be extremely uncomfortable. She felt as if all the blood in her body was flowing backward, and with her neck being strangled, she was almost suffocating. Even though Lu Minghong's attack was astonishing, Chu Hen was not at a disadvantage at all. Even when facing the opponent's palm energy, he still controlled Lu Wuyue. The palm energy of the two continued to emit heavy sounds of true origin energy explosions. Suddenly, Lu Minghong revealed a cold smile. Sunflame Hidden Force. Buzz! In the next moment, an extremely domineering hidden force suddenly surged into Chu Hen's body. It was like boiling lava, and Chu Hen's body trembled slightly. Following that, all of his meridians felt a burning sensation. This kind of feeling seemed to be familiar. Back in the Immortal and Devil Tomb, when Chu Hen stopped Qin He from using the Lotus Sun's descent on by Qinyu, he was unintentionally invaded by the Sun Flame Hidden Force. At this moment, Chu Hen was slightly absent-minded. Umph. Lu Minghong smiled coldly, and an even more majestic and monstrous aura rose. A scorching aura that was dozens of feet tall appeared behind him, and the endless scorching hidden force launched another attack. Bang! The flame that was burning around Chu Hen's body was like a blossoming cloud. At the same time, the fierce impact pushed him back, and the 5 fingers that were strangling Lu Wuyue also loosened. Lu Wuyue, who was on the verge of suffocation, felt that her throat had instantly become relaxed, and she immediately seized this opportunity to break free from Chu Hen's grasp. Her eyes were as cold as frost, and she shouted in a stern voice, "Kill him." Lu Minghong's gaze slanted, and he replied indifferently, "That's exactly what I was thinking." Then, he looked at Chu Hen with killing intent between his brows. "Last time, I let you escape with your life, but this time, you won't be so lucky." As his voice fell, the temperature of heaven and earth rose to the extreme, and the entire barren ancient city seemed to become a huge furnace. The air was filled with scorching red light patterns. Under Chu Hen's body, lines of dark red lines similar to flowing magma astonishingly appeared. Each of the dark red patterns emitted an incomparably domineering and terrifying power. Before Chu Hen could react, each of the dark red patterns suddenly burst open, and the surging waves of fire were like pillars of lava, sealing Chu Hen in all directions. The magma wall that covered the sky and covered the earth interweaved around Chu Hen's body and surrounded him layer by layer. Then, under the gazes of the surrounding people that were filled with reverence, the monstrous flames that surrounded Chu Hen immediately condensed into an incomparably huge golden lotus. The huge golden lotus was gorgeous and dazzling, and its bud was slightly open, emitting scorching waves of air that distorted space and terrifying energy fluctuations that could destroy heaven and earth. "It's the arrival of the lotus sun." Wu Yan's expression suddenly changed, and she clenched her fists with a solemn look in her eyes. Yi Yao and Long Xuan were also anxious, and they stared at the huge, flaming golden lotus on the high platform in front of them, the arrival of the lotus sun. As everyone knew, it was one of the supreme techniques of the profound sun palace. But for Chu Hen, this was not the first time he had to deal with it. Qin He, who was in the profound Sun Palace's team, frowned, and his heart was filled with hatred. Previously, in the Immortal and Devil Tomb, Chu Hen had consecutively broken his arrival of the Lotus Sun twice, and it was really hard for him to get over it. However, compared to Lu Minghong's arrival of the Lotus Sun, Qin He's arrival of the Lotus Sun was not worth mentioning. Whether it was in terms of aura or the execution of the technique, there was a world of difference. You won't be able to escape this time. The huge golden lotus was like a divine sun that appeared in the center of the ancient city. Thousands of dazzling rays of light bloomed, and a large area of the city center was reduced to a blind spot covered by the golden light. Everyone's pupils rapidly shrank to the size of a dot. The dazzling golden lotus also quietly bloomed like a divine object. Petal after petal unfolded from it. Every time a petal opened, the intensity of the power released would increase. The moment all the petals bloomed, everyone's expression couldn't help but be a little dazed. 100 feet tall divine object that looked like a celestial lotus of the heavens and earth bloomed in the ancient city. A disdainful sneer appeared on Lu Minghong's face. His hands formed a seal, and he coldly shouted, "Turn into ashes." Arrival of the lotus sun. Explode. Bang. A terrifying and heavy tremor shook the heavens and the earth. Under countless pairs of shocked gazes, the golden lotus on the high platform directly exploded. A vast and terrifying storm shock wave immediately swept out in the sky above the ancient city. The powerful and piercingly cold aftershock was like a condensed starry halo. Wherever it passed, majestic palaces and pavilions were destroyed one after another. Countless majestic golden light pillars soared into the sky, and the destructive storm energy exploded, tearing the high platform apart. At this moment, the originally desolate and dim ancient city became radiant and dazzling. The golden holy light dyed the huge ancient city with a layer of gorgeous golden light. Feeling the terrifying aura that originated from the golden storm, the expressions of everyone in the ancient city changed drastically. This power is really terrifying. That person is probably dead, right? Is there a need to say that? Being at the center of the power of the lotus sun, I'm afraid that even Qin Shui won't be able to withstand it. Not to mention a nameless martial arts grandmaster. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the majestic high platform in the center of the city had already collapsed and disintegrated. However, what was surprising was that the few ancient stone pillars that stood on the high platform did not collapse, and they were still standing firmly in the same place on the other side. The people of the heaven-condensing pavilion all drew their swords and were ready to fight. Once Chu Hen died, the next step would be to fight for the remaining key fragment. The people around also noticed this, and all of them looked at Lu Wuyue with a serious expression. On the other hand, Lu Wuyue was somewhat dissatisfied. Dying like this is really too easy on you. Clang. However, just as he finished speaking, the roar of thousands of wind and thunder resounded in all directions. What? The hearts of everyone present trembled violently. They could only see that within the golden storm vortex, numerous peerlessly strong pillars of thunder and lightning abruptly flowed out. For example, the ice-cold giant python was wantonly jumping around. What was even more shocking was that all of the majestic lightning had a strange purple color. This is purple lightning? Chapter 1283. Purple lightning. What's going on? The gorgeous and evil purple lightning flashed in the sky. The expressions of everyone in the ancient city changed again and again, and their hearts were filled with shock. Even Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuan were astonished. Chi, the impassioned sound was like the excited cries of 1,000 birds. Under many incredulous gazes, a familiar figure surrounded by the violent and fierce power of lightning appeared in everyone's line of sight. The purple lightning was like a three-dimensional ball of light, and an astonishing and terrifying power was released. Chu Hen was like a shaman spirit that controlled the divine punishment lightning tribulation, looking indifferently at Lu Minghong in the sky. You think you're worthy of being on the honor roll with this little ability? His cold voice did not conceal the frivolity in it. At this moment, everyone was shocked. On the other hand, Lu Minghong was even more furious. His eyes were wide open, and the golden aura around his body gathered and spun rapidly in front of him. In an instant, a large fireball that was close to 100 meters wide came down diagonally. It was like a descending, scorching sun as it smashed towards Chu Hen below. Arrogant thing, rumble! The rolling heat wave whistled over, and Chu Hen, who was in the area below, once again suffered an extremely great pressure. However, Chu Hen was not afraid at all, and there seemed to be lightning flashing in his eyes. He raised his palm, and the endless purple lightning that lingered around his body flew out like interweaving holy swords. Crack! Dozens of spectacular purple lightning intersected like dragons and snakes, exploding out with an ear-piercing sound. It was like a flowing aurora, like an irregular giant sword or divine spear, directly colliding with a huge fireball that was crashing down. Bang! The two collided, and an explosion shook the sky. An earth-shattering power surged through the entire area. In the next instant, the extremely swift and fierce purple lightning pierced through the huge fireball with the power to destroy the heavens. The purple lightning that carried an endless murderous aura continued to tear the heavens and split the earth, attacking Lu Minghong, who was in the sky behind him. Bang! Everyone secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. What a shocking destructive power. Is this the Xian Sha divine lightning? At this moment, even Qin Shui of Qi Shao Pavilion could not help but squint his eyes. His face was filled with a profound expression. Although the purple lightning also contained the aura of the profound killer divine lightning, its strength far surpassed that of the profound killer divine lightning. Wuzong! Qin Shui shook his head slightly with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Crack! The peerlessly imposing purple lightning was like a gigantic spear that pierced through the sky, instantly arriving in front of Lu Minghong. At the same time, an earth-shaking, furious, and ruthless aura erupted from the latter's body. Crimson flames lit up the sky. Waves of air that were like a tsunami enveloped Lu Minghong's body, transforming into a giant ape that had the power to uproot mountains. The giant ape was bathed in flames, dominating the world. An unparalleled berserk aura crushed everyone present. Roar! An intimidating roar reverberated throughout the entire ancient city. The fire ape's body was like a mountain, and the flames that rose outside its body were like a prairie fire. Following that, a heavy palm fiercely slammed down. Bang! An intense explosion sounded out. The majestic and sharp purple lightning was directly shattered and blown apart. The sky was filled with streaks of lightning that fell like rain. The light that exploded in the air was like a dance of fireworks. The piercingly cold and powerful waves of air whistled in all directions. "It's the imperial ape sacred body," someone outside the arena exclaimed. How terrifying. It actually forced Lu Ming Hong to this extent. It's indeed surprising. But once the imperial ape's sacred body appears, the battle is about to end. Everyone was in awe of the fire ape as they sensed the monstrous anger it exuded. Lu Ming Hong's bloodline boundary had an extremely terrifying, explosive power. Even an expert of the same level would find it hard to contend against it. Not to mention Chu Hen, whose cultivation base lagged behind. Wake up! Lu Ming Hong, who was inside the fire ape, let out a thunderous roar. Following that, the indomitable giant fire ape raised its gigantic palm and slammed it down towards Chu Hen's head. Buzz, golden flames that were like raging waves and tsunami-like surged into the palm of the giant ape. The prairie fire that filled the air was like 100 rivers converging, displaying its earth-shattering might. In the blink of an eye, a large congealed golden ball of light appeared under the giant ape's palm. The golden ball of light that was constantly pressing down on Chu Hen spun rapidly, forming a large flaming golden wheel that tore through all directions. At the edge of the golden wheel, there were sharp saw teeth that emitted a terrifying destructive power. Imperial Flame Divine Kill. Roar! Lu Ming Hong and the fire ape's aura overlapped, shaking the heavens and earth. A terrifying whirlpool-like storm was stirred up in the entire ancient city. In the eyes of everyone, Chu Hen was already a dead man. Long Xuan, Yi Yao, and Wu Yan's hearts were stretched to the extreme. They stared straight ahead, not even daring to breathe loudly. Looking at the golden spiraling light wheel that carried an endless aura of death descending rapidly, Chu Hen's long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, but there was not a hint of panic in his eyes. Then he lifted his eyelids, and an extremely powerful aura erupted. Chi-chi, countless bolts of purple lightning bloomed from it, intertwining with each other endlessly, flashing across the sky. The incomparably spectacular large-scale lightning bolts were like giant pythons piercing through the sky, intertwining with each other, and powerful waves of air swept out. In the next instant, a three-pronged halberd that was flickering with purple arcs of light suddenly appeared in the air. Purple lightning, sky light blade. Boom! Bang! A deafening loud sound immediately exploded in the sky above the ancient city. Under many pairs of shocked eyes, the giant golden light wheel in the fire ape's hand collided with the sky splitter heavy halberd that was flickering with purple lightning bolts, for example. The violent force from the collision of meteorites almost shattered the heavens. The golden light mixed with the purple lightning bolts burst out in all directions, and the already destroyed buildings in the city suffered a second round of impact. Many houses and pavilions were instantly reduced to ruins. The ancient city trembled, and the ground split open. The high platform below completely disintegrated, and only a few lonely stone pillars swayed restlessly in the storm. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Qin Shui, Li Yinsheng, Wu Yan, and the others all had solemn looks on their faces, especially Lu Wuyue. She clenched her fists tightly, and her eyebrows were filled with resentment and anger. That nameless person won't be able to defeat him. In her heart, Lu Wuhong was absolutely invincible among those who were at the same level as Wu Xiao. All these years, he had fought with many geniuses and had never lost a single battle. How could a mere Chu Hen act so presumptuously in front of him? Boom! The violent shockwaves that filled the sky, and the purple lightning halberd and the golden light wheel exploded in the sky at the same time. The violent shockwaves were like a tsunami, and the universe was in chaos. The wind and clouds lost their color, and the ground cracked. Immediately after, the fire ape's huge palm pressed down angrily, and like a five-finger mountain, it enveloped Chu Hen. "It's over." Lu Wuhong's eyes flashed with a cold light. "Oomph." A mocking sneer appeared on Chu Hen's face. "As you wish, it's over." Finished speaking, Chu Hen actually did not dodge or evade. He did not evade or give way. Instead, he faced the incoming force head-on and charged towards the descending fire ape's huge palm. In the process of moving, powerful and manic purple lightning unceasingly flowed around Chu Hen's body. The intertwining purple lightning gathered in Chu Hen's right palm, and it shone brightly. In an instant, an extremely swift and fierce lightning net gathered at the center of Chu Hen's palm. The densely packed lightning arcs moved and flickered, as if there were tens of thousands of lightning blades. Chi-chi. For example, thousands of lightning beasts roared, and Chu Hen held the power of the purple lightning, and he attacked the fire ape's huge palm head-on. Bang! Boundless light burst out in all directions, and the color of the sky changed as the purple light dyed the sky. Under the huge body of the monstrous fire ape, Chu Hen's figure was completely disproportionate. In front of Chu Hen, the monstrous fire ape was like an unshakable giant. Even so, the dazzling purple flash still struck the gigantic beast without showing any signs of weakness. Bang! Powerful shockwaves spread out in the sky above the ancient city. How audacious! He actually dared to face senior brother Wuhong's power head-on. This bastard is simply courting death. The disciples of the profound Yang Palace revealed looks of disdain and ridicule. However, in the next moment, a circle of brilliant purple light exploded in the palm of the monstrous fire ape. Everyone was shocked, and then something unexpected happened. Clang! Boundless purple lightning forcefully penetrated the huge palm of the monstrous fire ape, and fireballs danced in the sky like rain. What? Everyone's eyes widened as they turned pale with fright. The purple lightning in Chu Hen's palm was like an invincible divine lightning blade. After penetrating the monstrous fire ape's palm, it did not show any signs of stopping. It was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The unstoppable purple lightning pierced upwards and once again cut the arm of the monstrous fire ape. Crack! The sharp sound was abnormally ear-piercing. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the monstrous fire ape's arm shattered inch by inch, exploding along the way. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen turned into a purple shadow blade and directly pierced deep into the body of the monstrous fire ape. The brilliant lightning stunned the heavens and earth. The purple shadow blade cut the huge body of the monstrous fire ape, and with an unstoppable force, it suddenly stabbed in front of Lu Minghong. Seeing Chu Hen arrive in front of him in an instant, Lu Minghong's expression changed. "You crack." At the same time that Lu Minghong retreated, the purple lightning in Chu Hen's palm lightly cut into his chest. Lu Minghong's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. The clothes in front of his body, along with his flesh, were torn apart, and a bloody light burst out. The faces of the crowd below turned pale with fright. Scram! Shocked and furious, Lu Minghong raised his hand and slapped his opponent. Swish! With a flash of a shadow, Chu Hen disappeared on the spot like a ghost. In the next instant, an indifferent voice came from behind Lu Minghong. Chapter 1284. "I'll take the arm you owe me in Myriad Bell City." An indifferent voice that was accompanied by an extremely cold aura came from behind Lu Minghong. Lu Minghong's expression changed drastically. The hearts of the spectators trembled as well. Hiss, without any chance to defend, along with an extremely sharp and ear-piercing sound, a manic and beautiful purple lightning flashed between Lu Minghong's right arm and shoulder. In an instant, a string of blood that was as beautiful as a flower burst out from the void. The purple lightning that was like a shadow blade directly stunned the sky and shocked everyone. Under the attentive gazes of the crowd, the manic purple lightning condensed in Chu Hen's palm, quietly cut into Lu Minghong's right shoulder. The shocking scene caused everyone to feel as if they were in an illusion. Ah! An angry and painful scream pierced the eardrums of everyone present. The moment his arm left his body, Lu Minghong's eyes widened and his face was distorted. He was shocked and furious like a mad lion. The expressions of Li Yin, Cheng, Qin He, and the other genius disciple from Profound Sun Palace and Equal Sky Pavilion changed drastically. Even Qin Shouyi, another person on the wind cloud list, had a shocked expression in his eyes. The most shocked was none other than the fatal elegance Lu Wuyu. At this moment, her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Her eyes were filled with panic and fear that she had never seen before. At this moment, she finally understood why Chu Hen dared to shamelessly ask for Lu Minghong's arm as a wager back in the 10,000 Bell City. However, it was too late for her to understand. From the beginning until the end, he had never been arrogant and conceited. "I'll kill you." Lu Minghong was furious. His eyes were bloodshot as he let out a beast-like roar. He suddenly turned around and pounced at Chu Hen. "I'll make sure you die a graveless death." Humph. Looking at Lu Minghong, who had no elegance at all, Chu Hen's eyes were filled with frivolity. "Looks like you're going to be removed from the wind cloud list." Removed from the list. Hearing these 3 words, everyone's heartstrings trembled violently. Along with those words, Chu Hen lightly raised his right arm. Countless purple lightning that originated from within his body exploded out and gathered on his fist. An aura that was several times stronger than before shook the heavens and the earth. One after another, strong pillars of lightning spread out from Chu Hen's body. It was so dazzling that it looked like a 3-dimensional lightning net. A thick, destructive aura spread in all directions. In the eyes of the crowd, Lu Minghong seemed to have stepped into the shadow of the Grim Reaper. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Lu Yue was shocked to the extreme, and she hurriedly pulled out an energy crystal that flickered with a gentle emerald light before hurriedly pleading, "I'll give you the 4 spirit souls. Stop." Stop? Was that even possible? From the time they were in 10,000 Bell City until just now, Chu Hen had already run out of mercy and patience. Sizzle. As if countless lightning beasts were roaring at the same time, Chu Hen threw out a punch that brought about the might of a thunderbolt. Countless violent lightning bolts converged to form a shocking purple pillar that seemed like it could split the heavens, and it bombarded Lu Minghong's body. Clang! The divine lightning was as sharp as a blade. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, the incomparably sharp lightning bolt directly penetrated Lu Minghong's thick chest. At this moment, his broad body was as fragile as a thin piece of paper. The airflow was like a gust of wind. The entire ancient city fell into a deathly silence. Only the violent lightning bolts were flickering and interweaving between heaven and earth. "No!" Lu Yue screamed helplessly. Her body trembled, and the scene in front of her was like the most terrifying nightmare. Everyone knew that Lu Minghong was not only her senior brother, but also her elder brother. The reason why she was sought after by countless people in the Profound Yang Palace was mostly because of Lu Minghong. Now, her greatest support was presented in front of her in such a miserable manner. Lu Yue only felt her vision turn pitch black, and her mind was in chaos. High up in the sky, the purple lightning bolt that penetrated Lu Minghong's chest was like the sharp fingernail of the Grim Reaper, firmly nailing him in the air. "You!" Scarlet blood flowed out of his mouth, and Lu Minghong stared at Chu Hen with eyes that were about to pop out of their sockets. Chu Hen looked at him calmly. "I won't be sending you off." Sizzle. Violent purple lightning bolts quickly swam around Lu Minghong's body, and an incomparably chaotic and violent energy immediately erupted from the latter's body. Boom! A heavy muffled sound rang out, and Lu Minghong's body instantly turned into fragments and dregs that filled the sky. Fresh blood, mixed with minced meat, flew everywhere. Up! Lu Wuyue screamed as if she had gone mad. Then, her vision turned black, and she fell to the ground. The wood attribute 4 spirit souls in her hand also fell on the stone platform in front of her. At this moment, everyone inside and outside the ancient city was speechless. Everyone from the profound Yang Palace was scared silly. Let's go. Qin, he was the first to react. He rushed forward and picked up the unconscious Lu Wuyue as fast as he could, and then fled in panic with the other disciples of the profound Yang Palace. Shu Hin did not have the intention to kill them all. After all, there were so many people watching. Even if he killed Lu Wuyue, Qin He, and the others here, the others from the profound Yang Palace would still find out. Therefore, there was no difference whether he killed the others or not. No one could have guessed such an outcome. Even Wu Yan's heart was in turmoil. Although he knew that Shu Hin might have held back when he fought against Pei Yi in the sect battle, he did not expect Shu Hin to have the terrifying strength to kill the top monstrous geniuses on the honor list. Looking at Shu Hin's cold, arrogant, and slender figure, Wu Yan clenched his fists and murmured to himself, "Just how strong are you?" The cold cyclone was blowing, and the majestic central platform no longer existed. Only less than 1/10 of the original structure was left to support the stone pillars that seemed to support the sky. The surrounding buildings were almost razed to the ground, and a large number of houses had collapsed. Shu Hin slowly landed on the broken stone platform. Then Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuan immediately walked forward. "Big brother Chu Hin, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Chu Hin's gaze softened slightly. He shook his head slightly and then moved his palm. A suction force was released from his hand, and the wood attribute 4 spirit souls fell into his palm. Immediately after, a wisp of blue energy light floated down from the area where Lu Minghong had died. Looking at the ball of light, everyone's eyes narrowed. "Key fragment," someone shouted in a deep voice. Chapter 1285. Key fragment. Looking at the blue light that floated down from the sky, the eyes of everyone present trembled. Their eyes flickered with a cold light that was as sharp as a sword. All of them clenched their fists or pressed their swords with one hand, as if they were ferocious tigers that were ready to attack. However, even the genius expert Lu Minghong, who was ranked 49th on the honor list, had lost his life to Chu Hin, causing everyone to have many misgivings. Although their hearts were a little restless, no one dared to act rashly. In addition, Qin Shui, Li Yinxing, and the rest of the people from the Heaven Condensing Pavilion did not make a move, so everyone was more cautious. "What should we do? Should we go or not? Don't be rash. Even Lu Minghong is dead. Let's not be the first to stand out. Let's wait for the people from the Heaven Condensing Pavilion to make a move first. Then we'll act according to the situation." Yes, there's no rush for now. With so many people, there must be other variables. Even though Chu Hin had killed Lu Minghong of the profound Yang Palace in front of everyone, the temptation of the key still made everyone unwilling to let go easily. Now that the people from the profound Yang Palace had retreated, only Qin Shui of the Heaven Condensing Pavilion could contend against Chu Hin and the rest. Everyone could only hope that the two sides would fight again, and the remaining people would be able to reap the benefits and see if they could. Buzz! Under everyone's solemn gaze, the key fragment that originated from Lu Minghong fell into Chu Hin's palm like a meteorite falling from the sky. Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuan's eyes lit up at first, but then they quickly became vigilant. The unfriendly gazes around them made them feel uncomfortable. Chu Hin's face was calm, and he did not care about it. At this moment, Qin Shui suddenly strode in their direction. Not only was there no coldness on his sickly pale face, there was instead an indifferent and calm smile. However, in the eyes of Wu Yin and the rest, there was a deep craftiness in this smile. A few days ago, I received news that the champion of the martial sect battle this time is a new disciple. If I'm not wrong, that new disciple should be you, right? Qin Shui said in a gentle tone. As soon as he said that, the surrounding people were slightly surprised. Each and every one of them looked at Chu Hin with even more complicated gazes. A newcomer to the martial arts Grandmaster sect already had the ability to step onto the wind cloud list. What kind of achievement was this? If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush, Chu Hen replied calmly. Qin Shui raised his eyebrows slightly and nodded with a smile. As you can see, everyone is coveting the key. Instead of waiting for others to reap the benefits, why don't we cooperate? Cooperation? Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuan were stunned. Chu Hen was also slightly surprised. He glanced sideways and glanced at his surroundings. How do you want to cooperate? It's very simple. Whether it's you or me, the key fragments in our hands can't open the ancient city's ruins alone. Therefore, we can combine the fragments into a complete key. After we open the ruins, we'll fight for the inheritance treasures inside with our own strength. What do you think? Qin Shui replied. After listening to what Qin Shui said, the corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. He was slightly hesitant. It was obvious that Qin Shui had already figured out the current situation. His thoughts were far more meticulous than Lu Yanhong's. This person was probably even more difficult to deal with. Sure. After a short moment of hesitation, Chu Hen actually agreed. Qin Shui's eyes lit up. However, immediately after, Chu Hen continued to say, "However, I have a condition." "Oh, kill the soul of the four souls." Chu Hen glanced at the 10-feathered demonic blade, Li Yinqing, behind him. When he heard that, Li Yinqing's expression changed, and he was furious. "Bastard, aren't you too naive? Do you think we're begging you?" Chu Hen lazily glanced at him and still said to Qin Shui, "You only have one fragment, and I have two. I'm the one who's at a disadvantage. It's not too much for me to add a condition, right?" "Of course it's not too much. When the ruins open, I'll give it to you," Qin Shui replied. Chu Hen smiled. "Only things that are in my hands can be considered to belong to me." Qin Shui also smiled. He shook his head and said somewhat helplessly, "It said that new disciples are immature, but you're more experienced than us." "It's not experienced. It's only natural." "Huh? If that's the case, then it's up to you." Li Yinqing clenched his fists unwillingly. "Senior brother Shui, it's just a soul of the four souls. If junior brother Chu Hen wants it, then just give it to him." But Li Yinqing wanted to say more, but when he saw the side of Qin Shui's face that was as pale as an ice knife, he finally stopped himself. Then he gritted his teeth and moved his palm, separating a crystal that was flickering with a black light. Buzz! A slight energy fluctuation faintly trembled in the air, and the soul of the four souls that emitted a murderous aura floated into the air. With a thought, Chu Hen released an invisible suction force. The soul of the four souls immediately flew toward the other party and landed steadily in Chu Hen's palm. An unusual smile appeared at the corner of Chu Hen's mouth when he felt the powerful Sun Luo's power. Including the one from Lu Wuyue just now, he now had 3 soul of the four souls in his hands. He only needed one more to fuse the 4 souls into one. I'll leave it with you for now. I'll get it back very soon," Li Yinqing shouted unwillingly in a cold voice. To this, Chu Hen only laughed it off. The current Li Yinqing was not a threat to him at all, so there was no need to worry at all. "Are you satisfied now?" Qin Shui asked calmly. Chu Hen looked up slightly and immediately put away the soul of the 4 souls. Then he flipped his palm, and another energy fragment that glowed with blue fluorescence appeared in front of everyone. Then Qin Shui also raised his wrist slightly. A white light flashed, and a strange light shone out. In an instant, all 3 key fragments appeared. Buzz! A wave of restless energy spread out between heaven and earth. Under countless pairs of burning and greedy eyes, the 3 blue fluorescent fragments floated out of the palms of the 2 people at the same time, then gathered in the sky. 3 dazzling beams of light appeared in the air. The 3 fragments were like a broken mirror, and the edges and corners of each fragment were tightly joined together. A circle of light spread out. The dazzling light was like a blue sun and bright moon. Along with the increasingly intense energy fluctuations, a loud and impassioned sound reverberated in the air with a whoosh sound. Whoosh! Under the dazzling divine light, a three-dimensional square crystal core appeared in the sky above the ancient city. That is, the complete key. Everyone was more and more shocked, and they became more and more restless. If it wasn't for Qin Shui and Chu Hen's cooperation, they would have directly rushed up to fight for it. The sparkling blue light shone in the eyes of the people below. The square crystal core was about the size of an adult's fist, and the 12 borders were inlaid with metal lines. There seemed to be a blue energy body gathered inside it, and it looked like a rising mystical fire. The crystal core energy body shone brightly. Thousands of light patterns flowed out of it, covering the sky and earth. It was like a blue light wing that spread around the ancient city. Buzz, following that, the several giant stone pillars standing on the high platform also emitted an obscure energy fluctuation. As if an ancient talisman restriction had been activated, all the obscure patterns on the stone pillars flickered with a soft light. Especially the majestic stone pillar in the center of the north. The fierce beast pattern on the pillar seemed to have come to life. The fierce beast that looked like a tiger and a leopard opened its mouth, and its body emitted a bright light. Especially the yin-yang pattern in the middle of its forehead. It was like a wheel of light that slowly rotated. Woo! The yin-yang beast Noni, who was following beside Yi Yao, seemed to have a low roar in its throat. Yi Yao turned around and looked, and she asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Noni. The other party didn't answer, and he still stared at the fierce beast pattern on the stone pillar. Swoosh! At this time, the square crystal core key drew a majestic beam of light in the void, and it directly shot towards the location of the light pillar. Buzz, along with a majestic hum of power, the key directly integrated into the interior of the ferocious beast pattern. The key disappeared. Everyone's heart jumped, and each of them revealed a look of shock. Kacha! In the next instant, the earth split open, and countless deep cracks spread out on the ground. Rumble! Space trembled, and the entire ancient city suddenly fell into an unprecedented violent turbulence. Tall buildings collapsed with a loud rumble. The ground shattered inch by inch, layer by layer. Tens of thousands of beams of divine light flashed between heaven and earth, along with a violent wind pillar that soared into the sky. Majestic and terrifying airwaves swept in all directions, and a huge pit rapidly opened up and expanded in the city. A dark and deep aura surged into the sky. The desolate aura that had been sealed for countless years soared into the sky. Chapter 12:86. Rumble. The earth cracked, and the ancient city shattered. The sky lost its color. The aura of desolation that had been sealed for countless years was like a dark pillar of wind that broke through the boundary of the earth. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a rapidly expanding abyss passageway suddenly appeared in the center of the ancient city. The rocks and dust at the edge of the passageway slid down continuously. A dark and deep aura of desolation surged up. As the huge passageway tore the earth apart, the surrounding buildings were completely destroyed and smashed into pieces. The powerful and ferocious wave of chi caused many people to be blasted away, and the spectacular scene caused everyone's hearts to surge with excitement and astonishment. The ancient city ruins have opened. Haha, looks like everyone who sees it has a share. In that case, we won't stand on ceremony. Go! Many young experts' eyes flashed with passion and restlessness. Like birds returning to their cages, they all burst forth with extreme speed and rushed toward the abyss passageway. A bunch of pathetic people who fish in troubled waters. Li Yinxing clenched his fists and shouted in a low voice. Qin Shui said indifferently, "Don't worry about them." Then he looked at Chu Hen on the other side with a meaningful look. "Then, the rest will depend on your own ability. Up to you." Chu Hen raised his handsome eyebrows slightly and replied indifferently. Qin Shui smiled lightly. Then, like a leading sheep, he led the people of Heaven Gathering Pavilion directly into the passageway. Chu Hen did not hesitate either. He turned to the side and said to Wu Yin and the other two, "Be careful later." "Yes." The three nodded solemnly. Immediately, Chu Hen and the other three, as well as Inyang Beast Noni, also swooped down with a biting cold aura. Rumble. The air was filled with a manic aura of wind and thunder. The deep pit that appeared in the center of the ancient city was like the huge mouth of a prehistoric giant beast. Strong gusts of wind that originated from underground rose into the sky in an unending stream. Everyone seemed to have entered a mysterious wind cave. The strong astral wind was like the undercurrent in the deep sea, blocking everyone's advance. The further down they went, the stronger the resistance they faced. At the bottom of the boundless abyss, there seemed to be tornadoes intertwining with each other, causing one to shrink back, not daring to advance rashly. Oomph, a bunch of cowards. So what if I let you walk to the front? Li Yinxing and the other genius disciples of Qi Shao Pavilion looked at him mockingly, then followed Qin Shui and took the lead to charge into the center of the twisting tornadoes. A small number of young powerhouses who were not weak also followed closely behind them. There were also a few people who underestimated the power of the wind pillars. Once they stepped into the vortex like cyclone, they immediately lost their balance and were directly sucked into the vortex. After a short and hurried wail, they were immediately torn to pieces. What a powerful strength! Be careful! In the face of such a situation, everyone was on high alert. However, Chu Hen and the others did not stop. They turned into several beams of light and charged into the storm vortex. Although the powerful wind that covered the sky and earth was extremely imposing, to Chu Hen and the other three, it was nothing to worry about. "Noni, come to my side," Yao said softly. The four of them had all reached the late-stage ancient eternal realm, and the only one they were worried about was Inyang Beast Noni. However, what was surprising was that Noni did not encounter too much resistance. It did not seem to be strenuous for him to pass through the storm. Moreover, his vertical pupils were fixed on the endless abyss in front of him, giving off an unfathomable aura. "What's wrong with this guy today?" Wu Yin asked in confusion. Yao shook her head, indicating that she did not know either. This was the first time she had seen Noni so nervous, as if there was something below that made him cautious. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and some doubts surged in his heart. However, he did not say much. What exactly was hidden at the bottom of this ancient city? He would find out very soon. Rumble. As they continued to descend, Chu Hen and the others steadily passed through the violent underground wind cave. They could vaguely see the people from Heaven Gathering Pavilion in front of them, and behind them, there were more than 10 figures with powerful auras chasing after them. What appeared in front of them was a gray, misty underground world. It was vast and boundless, and it was quite spacious in all directions. It did not feel like they had sunk into the ground, but rather like they had entered an independent space. Buzz, buzz. Suddenly, a wave of obscure fluctuations of energy came from below. The hazy gray mist was like a curtain of rain in the sky, slowly parting to the sides. Following that, a strange light surged out, and under the astonished gazes of everyone, a large Tai Chi Yin Yang talisman array with a diameter of thousands of feet appeared in everyone's vision. "That is," Wu Yin murmured in a low voice. Chuan also frowned slightly. The misty soft light emitted from the Tai Chi Yin Yang talisman array. One black and one white yin yang fish constructed this seemingly simple, but in fact it contained 3,000 great Taos. The two yin yang eyes of the yin yang fish emitted a dense light. Following that, two strange doors slowly appeared at the eye position of the white yang fish and the black yin fish. On one of the doors, the word life was written, and on the other door, the word death was written. Yin Yang Qi, one life and one death. Looking at this scene, everyone's hearts were filled with shock. There are actually two doors. How should I choose? The life door might not be life, and the death door might not be death. Since the words life and death are marked on it, then I will go against it. Very quickly, someone made a decision. The person directly turned into a stream of light and headed towards the death door at the eye position of the blacking fish. However, as soon as he touched the death door, a dense and dazzling white light burst out from it, along with a shrill and panicked scream. That person was actually violently struggling and being sucked into the door. Following that, there was a deathly silence. Everyone's expression changed again and again. All of their eyes were filled with shock and caution. Is that guy dead? No, I don't know. In their shock, everyone's gaze swept towards the life door at the eye of the white young fish. However, at this moment, no one dared to rashly test it, afraid that if they were not careful, they would be sucked into the abyss. Seen your brother, Shui? Li Yanqing looked at Qin Shui inquiringly. The latter narrowed his eyes and immediately made a decision. Although we cannot enter the two doors at the same time, we can enter one after the other. Let's go to the life door first, then the death door. With that, Qin Shui's figure moved, and he flew quickly towards the life door. Wong! A dense black light rippled in the air, and Qin Shui flashed through the door. The people of Equal Heaven Pavilion followed suit and entered the life door one after another. With Qin Shui's test, the others boldly entered the life door one after another. At the same time, Chu Hen and the rest also arrived. Without waiting for the four of them to discuss, the yin-yang beast Noni turned into a stream of light and flew towards the large taiji diagram below. Noni, Yao was shocked. Chapter 12:87. Noni. Yao cried out in alarm as she watched the yin-yang beast Noni charge towards the death gate. Hearing her call, Noni's figure paused slightly. He turned around to look at Yao and meowed softly. Then, he turned around again and charged towards the death gate, leaving an afterimage in the air. Buzz, a dazzling white light, immediately emerged from the black yin-fish's eyes. The gorgeous light was like a divine radiance that pierced through the dark clouds. In the blink of an eye, Noni's petite body was swallowed by it. Chu Hen, Wu Yin, and Long Xuan were all stunned. What's wrong with this guy today? Wu Yin asked in confusion. Long Xuan shook her head. I've never seen it act so strangely before. What did it say? Chu Hen asked Yao. After spending so much time together, Yao could already communicate with Noni. She could also more or less understand some of the beast language that Noni was using. It seemed to say that there's something down there. Yao replied uncertainly. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. As expected, Noni had sensed more things than them. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen's figure moved, and the other three followed in Noni's footsteps. Let's go, Buzz. The huge taiji yin-yang array constantly pulsed with a strong spatial rhythm, like a planar gate suspended in the endless abyss domain. The others at the back were all startled. A few of them have gone to the death gate. The talented are truly bold. I'm afraid that this year's martial arts organization has produced a genius. It's too early to say that he's a genius. Just defeating Lu Minghong isn't enough. In my opinion, with Lu Minghong's strength, he should have been pushed off the wind cloud list long ago. There are still many nameless people stronger than him. Now is not the time. Should we go to the gate of life or the gate of death? Let's use the life gate first. Faced with the choice between the two, most people still chose the life gate. However, there was also a small group of people who went in the opposite direction and followed the footsteps of Chu Hen's group of 4 into the death gate. Wah! The extremely cold, profound yin qi was like a bone-piercing icicle, penetrating through the skin and flesh, invading the meridians and bone marrow. The instant Chu Hen's group of 4 stepped into the door of death, it was as if they'd arrived at the nether purgatory where the sun couldn't be seen. A black, cold wind blew in the air, like the roar of a demon, almost freezing the blood in his body. So cold, Wu Yin said in a low voice. She subconsciously urged the true origin energy in her body, intending to expel the profound yin qi that had invaded her body. However, in the next moment, the gloomy and cold air suddenly became incomparably hot. Buzz! A wave of heat attacked, and a ball of raging flames suddenly appeared around Wu Yin. The oncoming raging flames immediately surrounded her. Wu Yin turned pale with fright as she erupted with an even stronger true origin energy to defend herself. However, the more she did so, the stronger the raging flames that burned her became. In the blink of an eye, she had already turned into a 7 to 8 meter tall flaming man. Ah! Hearing Wu Yan's panic scream, the few of them were shocked. Chu Hen moved his palm, and a strong gust of wind erupted from his palm. However, before he could extinguish the flames on Wu Yan's body, an incomparably hot ball of raging flames appeared out of thin air outside Chu Hen's body. The flames quickly spread to Chu Hen's entire body and immediately enveloped him. Big brother, Chu Hen. Yao and Long Xuan were even more shocked. "Don't come over." Chu Hen shouted at the two of them and sternly stopped them. "Don't move." The two of them were startled and immediately stopped in place. Chu Hen quickly kept a distance from the two of them. Then, a cold aura attacked, and a purple flame appeared on top of the raging flames that covered Chu Hen's body. The purple flame and the red flame devoured and tore at each other, like two ghosts biting each other. However, the evil flame, which usually burned everything, seemed to have met its match this time. After a round of fighting, not only did the solitary burning evil flame not gain any advantage, but the raging flames that covered Chu Hen's body became even more vigorous. In the blink of an eye, it surpassed Wu Yan and looked like a fireball that was more than 10 meters wide. "Big brother Chu Hen, don't go over." Long Xuan hurriedly pulled back Yao, who was about to go forward. Although the degree of anxiety in her heart was no less than Yi Yao's, the two of them were currently being burned by the raging flames. If something happened to them, Chu Hen would be even more helpless. Wu Yan's screams gradually became muffled and weak. It was obvious that she was in a critical situation. Chu Hen, who was in the middle of the raging flames, was extremely anxious. "Damn it!" At this moment, a low voice sounded in his ear. "Don't use your primordial qi. The stronger your primordial qi, the stronger the primordial fire." The speaker was none other than the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, Mo Qingli. Primordial fire? Yes. This place contains extraordinary yin-yang source energy. The yin source energy can create a cold wind that can freeze all things into ice, while the yang source energy can transform in a fire that can incinerate everything. Once one's yuan power leaks out of one's body, it will disrupt the cycle of Genesis qi in this place, causing one to be engulfed in raging flames. After listening to Mo Qingli's words, Chu Hen was stunned. If he did not use his primordial qi, he would be corroded by the yin qi. If he used his primordial qi, he would be burned by the fire. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. However, under such circumstances, he could not use his primordial qi. Seeing that he could not hear Wu Yan's screams anymore, Chu Hen was extremely anxious. "Is there a way to break it?" "Yes," Mo Qingli replied. "Hurry up and tell me." The yin-yang primordial qi is mainly based on the yin-yang primordial qi. It is born from the great Tao and originates from all things. You only need to use a treasure that contains the yin-yang primordial qi to neutralize it. Where am I going to find a treasure that contains the yin-yang primordial qi at this time? Chu Hen did not understand what she meant. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his heart suddenly lit up. "So that's how it is. I was too anxious and confused." Buzz! Just as the raging flames around Chu Hen reached a width of tens of meters, a strange energy flowed out from within it. The space around him fluctuated rhythmically, and the red and purple flames actually began to rotate in the same direction. Accompanied by a twisting cyclone, the majestic flames actually began to shrink rapidly. Like a school of fish that had turned their nest, they immediately gathered towards the center. "Big brother Chu Hen?" Yao and Long Xuan's eyes lit up. When the last wisp of flames disappeared, Chu Hen's figure once again appeared in front of the two girls. They could only see that his body was surging with a black glow. Within the black glow, there were many complicated and ancient runes swaying in the air. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he immediately flashed to the side of another raging flame. He raised both his palms, and an extremely ancient and desolate aura filled the air. It was like an unpredictable great Tao. Circles of black light quietly rotated. Buzz! In an instant, the raging flames wrapped around Wu Yan's body seemed to be dragged by an invisible vortex, and they quickly rushed towards Chu Hen's palms. The layers of raging flames faded, and a ragged figure with multiple burn wounds appeared in front of them. Yi Yao and Long Xuanxuang couldn't help but frown, and their eyes surged with a look of pity. "Senior brother Wu Yan, how are you?" Chu Hen supported Wu Yan's shoulder with one hand. A dark gray wind blew past, and Wu Yan couldn't help but shiver. Her eyes slowly opened, and she was a little dazed. What is this? Yin and Yang source power. Once the released primordial yuan disturbs the rotation of the surrounding Genesis Qi, it will attract raging flames. Chu Hen told the three what Mo Qingli had told them. No wonder. Wu Yan steadied her body and let out a long sigh. She then took out a healing pill and swallowed it. She then waved her hand, indicating that she was fine. This place is really worthy of being called the Gate of Death. I almost died here. Although Wu Yan's body was burned in many places, her internal organs were not injured, which could be considered a blessing in disguise. She looked at Chu Hen gratefully and continued to ask, "In other words, I can't use primordial yuan here?" "That's right," Chu Hen answered. "But I just released my primordial yuan," Yi Yao said puzzledly. "Oh." The others were stunned. However, Chu Hen quickly understood and smiled. Because you have the Tai Chi holy body, you have the Yin and Yang force. The rules here are most likely ineffective against you. Really? Yi Yao's eyes lit up, and she said to Long Xuanxuang, "Sister Xuanxuang is also not affected by the Yin and Yang source power here. I think she is not afraid of the mysterious Yin Qi here at all." Long Xuanxuang shook her head. "It's not that I am not affected, but I have never used my primordial yuan to resist the mysterious Yin Qi." "Why?" "I don't feel cold." "Don't feel cold?" Long Xuanxuang's words stunned the three. It was normal. Long Xuanxuang now had the Ice Holy Body and the Ice God Stone left by the Ice Empress as a protective treasure. Her physique belonged to the mysterious Yin body, so she had an extraordinary resistance against the mysterious Yin Qi here. "I really envy you guys." Wu Yan smiled bitterly and shook her head. Chu Hen smiled. "All right, don't waste time. Let's hurry and find Noni." Immediately, the four of them continued to search the boundless dark abyss that was like the netherworld's purgatory. The black wind that filled the sky was still bone-chilling, like a roaring ghost. At the same time, in the sky behind Chu Hen and the other three, a series of miserable screams could be heard from time to time. Some people didn't even understand that in 1 second, the cold wind would freeze their flesh and blood, and in the next second, they would suffer the pain of being burned. Once they entered the Gate of Death, it was hard to find a way out. Chapter 1288. Under the Death Gate, it was difficult to find a way out. The black, chilly wind was like a monster baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, roaring in this bottomless and boundless netherworld. Chu Hen, Wu Yan, Yi Yao, and Long Xuanxuang continued to explore deeper down. They maintained a very stable speed and circulated the true origin energy in their bodies evenly. This was especially true for Wu Yan, who had fallen into the trap just now. She was extremely careful with the circulation of her energy. She did not allow even the slightest bit of it to overflow. She was afraid that it would disrupt the pattern of the Yin and Yang source energy in the surroundings and cause another raging flame to burn her. Senior brother Wu Yan, if you think it's too tiring, you can use your true origin energy to defend yourself. Chu Hen said in a low voice as he looked at Wu Yan, whose face was a little pale. Wu Yan looked at the three people beside him as if he was looking at monsters. He was the only one here who was being cautious. Yi Yao did not say anything. She had the Tai Chi holy physique, which carried the Yin and Yang energy. Long Xuanxuang relied on the Ice holy physique to resist the extreme Yin Qi here. Even Chu Hen had a way to deal with it. Wu Yan could not help but feel a little ashamed. "No need, I can hold on," Wu Yan replied. On one hand, he still had lingering fears. On the other hand, he did not want to cause any more trouble for the three people. Although the profound Yin-Chi here was strong, Wu Yin was still at the 8th level of the eternal realm. He could still resist it for a short period of time. Of course, if he attracted the raging flames formed by the profound yang energy, it would be a different story. Swish! The four of them seemed to be shuttling through the vast universe. It was hazy and misty. As they continued to move forward, the black chilly wind formed by the profound Yin-Chi became more and more powerful. This kind of chilly wind seemed to ignore the surface of the body and had the ability to penetrate armor. It had the terrifying power to invade the bones and organs. The more it was like this, the more serious Yi Yao's expression became. Where did Noni go? After so long, they could not find any traces of the yin-yang beast Noni. They could not help but feel anxious. Who? After passing through layer after layer of incomparably bitingly cold wind zone, this underground world was still vast like another independent, mysterious space. Look! At this time, Long Xuan called out in a low voice. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched as he murmured, "We've reached the end." That seems to be the case. It seems like the wind has also weakened a little. Wu Yin echoed with some surprise. Buzz! The airflow in the air faintly trembled, and the four of them landed one after another. The moment their feet touched the ground, they felt an indescribable hardness. It doesn't look like soil? Wu Yin gently stepped on the ground. Chu Hen nodded as a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. The ground beneath his feet was much sturdier than ordinary stone. Moreover, it didn't seem to be made of stone bricks. Instead, it felt more like a hard metallic substance. The four of them cautiously observed their surroundings. Dark and cold, vast and vast. In addition to the chilly wind blowing in the air, there was actually a series of strange, soft lights swaying in the air. It was unknown where the soft light came from. It was hazy, like a jellyfish floating in the undercurrent of the deep sea, giving people a particularly dreamy feeling. Noni! At this time, Yi Yao's surprise call shocked the other three. The three of them hurriedly walked toward where Yi Yao was. Noni, I finally found you. Are you all right? Yi Yao hurriedly trotted to the side of a furry black and white kitten. Before she could pick up Noni, she was stunned on the spot. She saw that Noni's body was flowing with yin and yang qi, one black and one white. His pair of dark vertical pupils were staring at a stone platform in front of him. The stone platform was square-shaped. It was divided into a total of 3 layers. The outer layer was more than 100 meters long and wide. The middle layer was about 60 to 70 meters long, and the highest layer was located in the middle, with a length and width of about 30 meters. There was a 3-legged cauldron on the middle layer. The cauldron was more than 5 meters tall. Its shape was simple and unadorned, and there were many ancient runes and secret scrolls all over it. In the middle of the many patterns and secret scrolls, there was also a ferocious beast with a ferocious appearance. That ferocious beast was like a tiger or a leopard. It stood on auspicious clouds and raging flames, and there was a Tai Chi Yin Yang symbol in the center of its forehead. Looking at the symbol on the body of the cauldron, Chu Hen and the other two were faintly startled. The ferocious beast symbol was exactly the same as the one on the stone pillar outside. That is, Long Xuan's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. She pointed at the ball of light above the ancient cauldron and said, following her gaze, they saw that there was actually a ball of soft light gathered above the mouth of the cauldron, and there were a few light spots floating in the middle of the soft light. When they looked over, they saw that those light spots were actually a few perfectly round and smooth elixirs that looked like a rain of pearls. An obscure and shocking energy fluctuation was faintly emitting from the inside of those elixirs. What was even more shocking was that there was a thick red vapor rising from the elixirs. The vapor formed a misty flow that was particularly eye-catching in this dark environment. Blood vapor. Wu Yin clenched her fists and blurted out, "Isn't this the Supreme Saint Explosive Blood Pill? Supreme Saint Explosive Blood Pill?" The moment the 3 people heard these words, they were shocked. "What's the Supreme Saint Explosive Blood Pill?" Chu Hen asked. Wu Yin shook her head gently and replied with a sigh, It's rumored that the Saint pill is refined from the blood essence of a Saint grade demon beast and several venerable grade demon beasts. Once it's consumed, it'll instantly unleash all the potential energy in one's body. The endless energy will form a powerful blood vapor outside one's body. Not only does it have a powerful explosive force, but it's also a great treasure to strengthen one's bloodline and physique. Even a top Saint King stage powerhouse would regard this supreme Saint explosive blood pill as a precious high-grade pill. As Wu Yin spoke, she had an incredulous expression on her face. One could see that she was extremely excited about the supreme Saint explosive blood pill. After listening to her words, Chu Hen's heart stirred as his eyes lit up. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Without the slightest bit of hesitation, Chu Hen and Wu Yin immediately moved their bodies and swiftly rushed towards the high platform in front of them. It was such a rare and amazing item. First come, first served. If they did not take it now, it would be inevitable for them to fight for it when the others arrived. However, the moment the two of them stepped onto the high platform, a wave of energy rippled in the air. In the next instant, a faint spatial fluctuation rose from the inside of the ancient cauldron. The elixirs hovering above the cauldron were like a swarm of bees that had been disturbed. With a whoosh, they suddenly flew out in all directions and scattered in different directions. They even know how to run away? Chu Hen was a little surprised. Saint-grade medicinal pills are like this. They instinctively repel foreign auras. Wu Yin explained as she quickly chased after a pill. She shouted at Long Xuan and Yi Yao, "Both of you, hurry up and help." The two ladies nodded and joined the team to capture the elixirs. Let's see where you're going." Chu Hen's speed was like a bolt of lightning as he flashed in the air like a meteor in the night sky. In just a blink of an eye, he caught up to a supreme, Saint explosive blood pill. With a wave of his hand, his 5 fingers that were spread open immediately closed. Subsequently, he grabbed a pill shrouded in blood vapor in his palm. The pill that had sunk into his palm was like an agitated sparrow that was trying to break free. However, how could Chu Hen let it escape? He controlled it with his internal force before he went after the other explosive blood pills. The 4 of them kept changing their positions in the dark like they were chasing fireflies. In the process of moving, a few of the supreme Saint explosive blood pills had a layer of flame on their surface. The flame quickly enveloped them and burned them together with the blood vapor on their surface. "Oh no, we have to hurry up. Otherwise, they're going to be burned," Wu Yin hurriedly shouted. Immediately, he gave up on the burning explosive blood pills and quickly chased after the normal pills. It could be seen that the fire formed by the profound yang energy would not only burn the outsiders who had barged into the death door, but it would also burn the other things that had disturbed the yin-yang source energy. Since he could not use his true origin energy rashly, he could not act as he pleased like he did outside. It was obvious that his movements were a taboo. Looking at the explosive blood pills that were enveloped in flames, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. Following that, a powerful burst of speed erupted and a layer of scorching flames immediately ignited outside his body. However, Chu Hen turned a blind eye to the flames that covered his body. His figure flashed wantonly in the air like a ghost. One after another, the explosive blood pills fell into his hands. Regardless of whether he had ignited the flames or not, Chu Hen did not give up on any of them. Soon, all the supreme Saint explosive blood pills that were scattered everywhere disappeared into the darkness. At this moment, Chu Hen had become a 10-meter-tall, flaming giant. The faces of the other 3 people changed. However, the flames quickly shrunk and rapidly melted. Chu Hen walked out of the raging flames without the slightest bit of damage. Yi Yao and Long Xuan's hearts were slightly at ease. Wu Yin shook her head and cursed. Monster! She was careful not to attract any sparks. However, Chu Hen, this monster, liked to get himself into trouble. "How is it? How many Supreme Saint explosive blood pills did you guys get?" Wu Yin said as she opened her palm. 2 violent blood pills were lying on her palm. "I also got 2, Long Xuan replied. "I got 3. Yao said with a happy smile on her face. After all, she had the yin-yang energy. Compared to the others, she could use her true origin energy more freely. It was normal for her to get 3. Then, the 3 of them looked at Chu Hen. His actions just now were no different from a robber. The medicinal pill that was about to be destroyed was forcefully pulled back by him. Looking at the 3 people's expectant gazes, Chu Hen blinked and revealed a meaningful smile. I got it, a woo. Before he could finish speaking, an extremely strong, chaotic aura suddenly gushed out from the high platform. Everyone was shocked. They turned around and saw that the originally quiet ancient cauldron was emitting a strange light. A series of runes on the cauldron lit up like a complicated restriction. The mysterious Yin energy that filled the air whistled violently. Roar! At the same time, the yin-yang beast Noni let out a deep roar. Its vertical pupils were like sharp swords as it stared at the ancient cauldron on the platform. Swoosh! Chapter 1289. Buzz! While Chu Hen and the others were collecting the supreme, sacred explosive blood pills, no one noticed the changes happening on the high platform. Along with a monstrous surge of yin and yang qi gushed out from the ancient cauldron, a condensed black and white halo surged in all directions, and a rotating taiji yin-yang diagram rapidly spread out. The hearts of the 4 of them were startled. Yin-yang beast Noni constantly emitted low roars from its throat. The yin-yang diagram that appeared on the ground emitted bursts of powerful energy, and then a series of strange light runes suddenly lit up in 8 different directions. In the blink of an eye, an 8 trigrams yin-yang diagram appeared in the darkness. Buzz! Waves of powerful energy surged out recklessly. Dazzling rays of light flashed out one after another, and 8 dazzling words appeared in 8 different directions. Heaven, earth, thunder, wind, fire, water, mountain, swamp. Taiji yin and yang. Universe 8 trigrams. The 8 different types of energy in the world symbolized the cycle of change in the world. The rotation of the sun and moon was mysterious and unpredictable. In addition to the yin and yang energy of heaven and earth, there were 6 other types of great Tao energy. This is, looking at the scene in front of them, the faces of the 4 were filled with bewilderment. In particular, Wu Yan's eyes were faintly trembling uneasily, and her hand were trembling. Her eyes swept back and forth as she muttered to herself. Universe 8 trigrams inside, great Tao, yin and yang. Isn't this the legendary yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron? Yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron? Hearing these words and seeing Wu Yan's frightened expression, Chu Hen could not help but ask in confusion, "What is this?" Wu Yan gritted her teeth and answered solemnly, "Yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, ranked 19th on the list. Divine weapon list, ranked 19th. As soon as he said that, the expressions of the 3 people changed drastically. Even Chu Hen subconsciously clenched his fists. Any divine weapon in the world was a precious object that tens of thousands of people would fight over. Any of the divine objects that were able to enter the rankings were enough to cause people to fight over them until their heads bled and their corpses covered the ground. It is rumored that the yin-yang Genesis Chi cauldron can endlessly absorb the yin and yang energy of the universe. The yin and yang energy can then give birth to the divine power of the 8 trigrams. In other words, yin and yang give birth to the 2 poles. The 2 poles give birth to the 4 divisions, and the 4 divisions give birth to the 8 trigrams. The power of the 8 trigrams is ever-changing and mysterious. In ancient times, there was an almighty being who once used the yin-yang Genesis Chi cauldron to single-handedly annihilate an entire enemy army, displaying the power to manipulate the universe with a flip of his hand. Hearing Wu Yan's explanation, the 3 of them were stunned. Even Chu Hen couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He stared solemnly at the ancient cauldron that was placed on the high platform on the 3rd level. Looking at the majestic and mysterious Tai Chi 8 trigrams formation beneath them, everyone had never imagined that such a shocking and extraordinary divine object was actually hidden behind the gate of death. Immediately after, Chu Hen's attention subconsciously swept towards the yin-yang beast, Noni, who was below the stage. It was still staring intently at the yin-yang cauldron with its glowing vertical pupils. Possessing the same yin and yang body, it was believed that its senses were more sensitive than humans. However, its series of actions had puzzled everyone. Even now, Noni was still extremely vigilant. Be's easy. Suddenly, right at this moment, a wave of light fluctuation came from the space above. Another person had passed through the inchi layer of the raging black wind. When he saw the scene below, his eyes immediately lit up after a brief moment of surprise, revealing a strong sense of greed and excitement. Yin-yang Genesis Chi Cauldron. Ha ha. The heavens are truly on my side. Swish. His speed suddenly sped up, and he shot down explosively like an arrow. Due to the overflowing true yuan power, a layer of scorching flames swiftly ignited around his body. However, that person did not seem to care at all. In fact, he even completely ignored Chu Hen and the others below, as if the only thing in his eyes was the ancient cauldron. Dragging a trail of scorching chi in the air, the person flashed to the top of the high platform at lightning speed. Then, he thrust out his palm, forming a giant palm made of powerful and domineering true yuan power that reached towards the ancient cauldron. Before Chu Hen and Wu Yin could react, something unexpected happened again. BZZ. When the blazing giant palm, made of true yuan, touched the yin-yang ancient cauldron, a monstrous pillar of yin-yang qi abruptly rose from the mouth of the cauldron. The light that blossomed was like a rapidly dispersing folding fan, extremely dazzling. Pung! The giant palm of true yuan immediately shattered. At the same time, the Tai Chi 8 trigrams formation on the ground began to slowly rotate. Then, a powerful suction force erupted from the mouth of the cauldron. The person's body suddenly froze, as if he had been dragged into the cauldron by an invisible hand. Ah! Panic cries spread out. In a panic, the person clung to the edge of the cauldron's mouth with both hands, trying to climb out of it. But then, a sharp and passionate roar of a ferocious beast hit everyone's eardrums. Roar! It was like a tiger's roar, like a wolf's howl. A black shadow that was emitting yin-yang flames appeared from the ancient cauldron, and the person's eyes were already filled with despair. The black and white yin-yang qi entwined with it, and with a hurried and shrill cry, the other party seemed to be dragged into a vortex that would never be able to escape. Seeing this situation, the expressions of Chu Hen, Wu Yin, Yi Yao, and Long Xuanchuang changed again and again. At the same time, the ferocious beast pattern in the center of the ancient cauldron's many complicated ancient runes flashed with a strange light. In particular, the pair of cold and fierce eyes seemed to have a trembling aura that penetrated deep into one's soul. Roar! A heavy and mighty, ferocious aura spread out from the ancient cauldron, and the black shadow that was about to devour the person crawled out like smoke. Together with the endless yin-yang qi, a ferocious beast with a terrifying appearance slowly appeared in front of the four people. The beast looked like a tiger or a leopard with a slender body. Its 4 claws stepped on the edge of the cauldron's mouth, and its entire body was filled with yin and yang qi. On its forehead, there was a Tai Chi pattern symbol. It stared coldly at the 4 people with eyes full of contempt. This is? The 4 people's eyes widened, and they felt even more surprised. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow in Chu Hen's body said in a low voice, "Tool spirit." Tool spirit? Chu Hen was stunned. Most divine tools have tool spirits. The higher the quality of a divine tool, the stronger the tool spirit. Emo Ching Li explained simply. Chu Hen was secretly shocked. Although he was surprised, he quickly accepted it. Take the 7-star soul bead as an example. At the beginning, he first obtained the star bead, then the 7-star soul in the ancient desolate heaven domain, and finally the soul bead fused as one to obtain the complete 7-star soul bead. And as a divine tool ranked on the list, it was not surprising that the yin-yang origin energy cauldron had a tool spirit. Before the 4 people could recover, the ferocious beast, turned its gaze to the yin-yang beast, Noni. Roar! The two were like a king facing his subjects. Noni's body involuntarily trembled. Then, Noni's four claws slowly retreated, and his vertical pupils were filled with fear and resistance. Noni, unaware of his intentions, Yao hurriedly rushed forward, intending to take him away. But in the next instant, the ferocious yin-yang beast stepped on black and white flames, baring its sharp teeth as it pounced towards Yao. Chu Hen frowned. Without saying anything further, he immediately rushed forward. At the same time, Noni let out a furious roar and swiftly dashed towards Yao. Roar! While moving, Noni's body erupted with rich yin and yang power, and his petite body rapidly grew stronger and more ferocious. Black and white wings sprouted from his back, and his four claws soared into the air. With a loud bang, he intercepted the ferocious yin-yang beast in midair and knocked it away. Roar! This collision seemed to have angered a king. The ferocious beast immediately aimed its spear at Noni. Torrential flames rose in its rage as it transformed into a black shadow and pounced towards Noni. The latter could not dodge in time and was immediately enveloped by the black shadow. Roar! As Noni struggled, he was directly dragged onto the high platform by the black shadow. The four of them were greatly alarmed. Without waiting for Chu Hen and the others to make a move to save him, a walala sound of trembling could be heard, and one after another, sturdy and dark iron chains suddenly sprang out from the surface of the stage. Every iron chain flickered with a fiery red light. Like a punishment from hell, the iron chains that attacked from all directions wrapped around Noni's body and limbs, and then forcibly pulled him off the ground and dragged him above the ancient cauldron. In the next instant, the black shadow formed by the ferocious yin-yang beast merged into Noni's body like a demonic barrier. In an instant, the bones all over Noni's body emitted a violent grinding sound, and every inch of his flesh and blood was bulging irregularly, as if there was an extremely violent force wantonly attacking his body, and he could explode and die at any time. Roar! Bound by the iron chains, Noni looked like an ancient ferocious beast that was enduring the punishment of the god of purgatory. His distorted facial features and body were abnormally ferocious and terrifying. Noni? Yao was shocked and anxious. She wanted to rush forward to rescue him, but Chu Hen stopped her. "Don't move, you three." As he finished speaking, Chu Hen was ready to move forward. But then, Mo Ching Li's voice sounded. "You can't save him." "What?" "That's not an ordinary weapon's spirit. It was born from the chi of yin and yang. You can't force it out. Since it's the chi of yin and yang, I can use the power of the heavenly Tao stone to pull it out," Chu Hen replied. "Normally you can, but not now." Mo Ching Li's tone was firm. Why? Chapter 1290. Because we are currently inside the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, Mo Ching Li's words resounded in Chu Hen's mind like a clap of thunder. His expression changed slightly as his pupils shrank slightly, his face filled with disbelief. Inside the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron? How is this possible? Chu Hen scanned his surroundings in bewilderment. It was a world of darkness that stretched as far as the eye could see, and the mysterious yin chi was like a black wind from the netherworld, covering the sky and earth. The layer of mysterious yin chi that had gathered above was like a black wave that flooded the entire space. Chu Hen had always had his suspicions. Why would there be such a strange place at the bottom of the ancient city, so strange that it could gather such majestic yin-yang Genesis energy? Now that he heard Mo Ching Li's words, it was as if he had an epiphany, and he could not help but feel enlightened. If that's the case, then the world behind the gate of death is the interior of the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, mumbled Chu Hen. That's right, Mo Ching Li solemnly replied. What is that? Chu Hen looked towards the mysterious ancient cauldron that was sealed by chains on the central platform. The artifact spirit. It's also the artifact spirit? The artifact spirit does not have a specific form, and it can change into any shape and form. What you saw just now was a product of the artifact's spirit. Of course, this product may have been used to refine the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron before, so the artifact spirit is more inclined to appear in this form. Emo Qingli paused for a moment before she continued to explain. Because this is the world inside the cauldron, the artifact spirit is omnipresent. Once it invades the yin-yang beast body, there's nothing you can do. At this moment, the trio behind him were filled with bewilderment as they watched Chu Hen not make a move. In particular, Yao could not help but ask, "Big brother Chu Hen." Before she could finish speaking, Chu Hen turned to the side and raised his hand, indicating that she did not need to say anything else. "So you're saying that Noni is definitely going to die?" asked Chu Hen in a low voice. "Not necessarily. Hurry up and say it." Chu Hen's heart lit up. Emo Qingli paused for a moment before he replied, "There's only one way to save that cat, and that is to refine the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron and become its master. Become the master of the yin-yang Genesis chi cauldron?" Hearing Emo Qingli's words, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. "Isn't this a little too difficult? If it was an ordinary divine artifact, it would be easy to deal with it. However, the yin-yang Genesis chi cauldron was a divine artifact ranked 19th on the list. Given how powerful its artifact spirit was, refining it for one's own use was easier said than done. Is there no other way?" "As of now, there is no better way," Emo Qingli replied. "Brother Chu Hen, what are you doing?" Looking at the yin-yang beast, Noni, who was sealed by the iron chain above the mouth of the cauldron, in pain, Yao was so anxious that she almost cried. Muffled roars continuously rang out from Noni's throat. His sturdy body was contorted in a horrifying manner, as a steady stream of life energy was forcibly extracted from his body. It looked like a living being sacrificed. Wu Yin and Long Xuanchuang also looked at Chu Hen in confusion. Given his personality, it was impossible for him to remain indifferent after such a long time. Chu Hen's expression darkened slightly as he turned to look at the anxious Yi Yao. "The place we are currently in is actually inside the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron." "What?" Disbelief and shock filled the trio's faces. "Behind the death gate is the world inside the cauldron. The yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron we saw is actually the artifact's spirit." Although they did not know how Chu Hen had obtained this information, he did not seem to be joking at all. Of course, it was impossible for him to be joking. Wu Yin frowned deeply as she mumbled to herself, "If we are in the world inside the cauldron, there's only one way to save Noni." The two girls immediately looked towards Wu Yin. "What is it? Hurry up and tell us." Yi Yao grew increasingly anxious. Wu Yin gritted her teeth and answered in an incomparably serious manner. "Subdue the artifact's spirit and refine the yin-yang cauldron. Otherwise, there is no way to make it leave Noni's body." It was obvious that Wu Yin knew more than the others. The artifact spirit could be omnipresent inside the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. Apart from becoming the master of the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, there was no way to make it let go of the trapped yin-yang beast. Soon after, the trio's gazes simultaneously swept towards Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen paused for a moment before he turned towards Yi Yao. "If I had to choose, I hope that little Yao will go." The trio were taken aback at first, but they quickly nodded in agreement. Although Chu Hen had the highest cultivation and possessed a saint bloodline that surpassed everyone else, Chu Hen was definitely the best candidate to refine a leader-ranked artifact like the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. But given the current situation, someone could barge in at any time. In particular, Qin Shui, Li Yinqing, and a group of other experts from the life gate next door. Once they arrived, it would be impossible for the trio to stop them. Moreover, Yi Yao possessed the bloodline boundary of the ultimate saint body, which allowed her to fuse yin and yang energy. She had better innate conditions than ordinary people. Given the current situation, Yi Yao was more suitable to refine the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. "I know what to do." Yi Yao's eyes were filled with determination. Chu Hen's eyes glowed with a deep and gentle light as he said in a low voice, "Refining the yin-yang cauldron is extremely difficult. The slightest carelessness will result in a backlash from the power contained in the divine artifact. Once you sense danger, you must not force yourself. Okay. Yi Yao nodded before turning around and leaping onto the high platform without looking back. She passed the first 2 levels of the high platform and finally stepped onto the 3rd level, which was surrounded by chains. Her clear eyes looked at the yin-yang beast Noni, who was shrouded in scarlet light and on the verge of death. She bit her lip and said in an incomparably firm voice, "Noni, I won't let anything happen to you." As she spoke, a razor-sharp aura gently streaked across the tip of Yi Yao's right index finger, and a thin red line flowed out. Yi Yao's wrist moved slightly, and a drop of crystal-clear red essence blood drifted out from her fingertip. Like a gentle and nimble water droplet, it gently landed on the ferocious beast pattern at the center of the cauldron. Bzz. The moment Yi Yao's blood touched the ancient cauldron, a circle of water-like ripples appeared in the air, and an extremely powerful and majestic force gushed out from the ancient cauldron. It surged like a tide, like a terrifying undercurrent in the deep sea, and surged towards Yi Yao. The latter's delicate body trembled, and she immediately sat upright on the ground beside the cauldron. Whoosh! A circle of black and white Tai Chi pattern rotated and spread out beneath Yi Yao's body. Under Yi Yao's control, the drop of essence blood that dripped onto the cauldron quietly melted like a fine spider web. The melted essence blood evolved into a series of complicated and strange runes. It looked bright and bewitching. Thousands of golden light patterns immediately appeared in the air. The golden light patterns were like a dense spiritual fog, immediately enveloping the entire ancient cauldron. At the same time, countless soft fiber-optic spirit patterns appeared on Yi Yao's body. Roar! In the next instant, yin-yang beast Noni's body erupted with an impassioned roar, and all the iron chains surrounding the table suddenly burst into raging flames. The raging flames quickly engulfed the entire table, immediately enveloping Yi Yao. At the same time, the runes formed from Yi Yao's essence blood also stopped moving, not moving at all. The raging flames quickly spread to Yi Yao's body, causing her delicate body to tremble uneasily and her breathing to become very unstable. Seeing this scene, Wu Yin and Long Xuanchuang's heartstrings were constantly stretched taut. Chu Hen also prepared to rescue Yi Yao at any time. Although he could not bear to see Noni die, he did not want to see Yi Yao in danger even more. "I'm afraid little Yao can't hold on for much longer." Chu Hen secretly shook his head. "Not necessarily." Mo Qingli gave an opposing opinion. "Oh." Chu Hen was a little surprised. "In my opinion, the yin-yang origin energy cauldron is most likely in a damaged state." "Why do you think so?" "It has both yin and yang energy and the power of the 8 trigrams. But from beginning to end, only yin and yang energy can be seen, but not the 8 trigrams. This means that its power is limited. And the artifact's soul attracted the yin-yang beast here because it wants to devour it and use it to repair itself." It had to be said that Mo Qingli was very knowledgeable. Her eyesight and knowledge were still incomparable to the current Chu Hen. After a series of investigations and calculations, she quickly made a judgment of the situation. Devour Noni? But Chu Hen was still quite surprised. Don't underestimate that cat. Ever since yin-yang beasts were born, they have absorbed the yin and yang energy between heaven and earth to survive. Any yin-yang beast has the purest yin and yang energy in the world. In its body, there are no chaotic energies. Just the purity of the yin and yang energy alone is slightly inferior to that girl's Tai Chi holy body, Hua. Just as she finished speaking, the aura released by Yi Yao clearly became much stronger. Although the flames on the stage were still strong and domineering, the Tai Chi array under Yi Yao's body slowly rotated, constantly pushing the approaching flames away. Very quickly, the red spirit inscriptions on the cauldron moved again, like shallow water slowly flowing on a dry riverbed. Roar! At the same time, the artifact soul was also forcibly extracting Noni's power and life energy. Strands of black and white light emerged from Noni's body, then sank into the high platform along the chains on the stage, finally fusing into the ancient cauldron. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't take long for Noni to be completely devoured. However, due to Yi Yao's interference, its speed was greatly affected. Both sides seemed to have fallen into a battle of time. At that time, it would depend on whether Yi Yao would first refine the yin-yang cauldron or whether the artifact soul would first devour Noni. Hugh, above everyone, the mysterious yin qi inside the yin-yang Genesis qi cauldron roared like a monster, sweeping across the entire cauldron like a hellish storm. One yin, one yang. The extremely cold, mysterious yin qi and the mysterious yang fire that could incinerate all living things began to tear apart the high platform. At this moment, even Long Xuan felt a chill run down her spine, let alone Wu Yen. Her hands and feet were tightly clenched, and her teeth were chattering. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he lifted his head and scanned the sky. He could vaguely sense several auras passing through the layer of biting, cold, mysterious yin qi. This place isn't suitable for battle, Mo Qingli reminded again. Chu Hen frowned slightly, a look of hesitation on his face. The cauldron likely contained more than 10,000 years' worth of yin-yang source energy. Although it was still relatively stable, it was hard to imagine what kind of shocking scene it would bring if a large-scale battle broke out. For Yi Yao, who was concentrating on refining the yin-yang cauldron, chaos meant disaster. Even though Chu Hen had the great Tao Divine Stone and was not afraid of the raging flames here, it might be an advantage, but did not guarantee that this place was his home ground. The Sacred War had gathered a group of the top geniuses of the entire Midland. How many of those who had the ability to enter here were weaklings? Moreover, Qin Shui should have already left the Gate of Life, or even entered the Gate of Death. He was a figure on the Golden List, and was likely stronger than Lu Minghong. Most importantly, it wasn't a wise choice to stay here. Even if they managed to repel Qin Shui's group, it would not be long before a second group rushed over. There was no second exit in the yin-yang Genesis Qi cauldron, and if Yao was unable to refine it before that happened, it would undoubtedly be like catching a turtle in a jar. Chapter 1291. I'm afraid we have to leave first. After thinking for a short while, Chu Hen's eyes flashed with a resolute light, and he said to Wu Yin solemnly. The latter was startled, and Long Xuan was also surprised. At this moment, on the platform sealed by the scarlet chains, Yi Yao was surrounded by raging flames. She was at the critical moment of refining the yin-yang cauldron, and the yin-yang beast, Noni, was also sealed above the mouth of the cauldron, and now, Chu Hen actually said that he wanted to leave. There will be others coming soon. We have to lure them away, Chu Hen explained in a deep voice. The two immediately understood that once the others arrived here, it would definitely lead to a chaotic battle. At that time, it would definitely bring unimaginable consequences to Yi Yao. But how do we lure them away? Long Xuan asked, puzzled. You stay here and look after little Yao, Chu Hen replied solemnly. Long Xuan clenched her jade-like hands and pursed her red lips slightly. Once something happens to her in the process of refining the yin-yang cauldron, the first thing to do is to ensure her safety, Chu Hen said again. Although there was a slight fluctuation of emotions, Long Xuan still nodded cautiously. Immediately, Chu Hen looked at Wu Yen. Senior brother Wu Yen, I'm afraid you'll have to put on a show with me next. Put on a show? Wu Yen was surprised. Chu Hen then quickly told Wu Yen his idea. Wu Yen raised her eyebrows, and a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. Good idea. Junior brother Chu Hen, you're really resourceful. Chu Hen smiled slightly. Did you hear what I said? No problem. Okay, let's leave now. Pausing, Chu Hen looked at Yi Yao, who was sitting on the platform. The domineering and powerful flames covered the entire platform. The Tai Chi array under Yi Yao slowly rotated, forming a transparent white protective shield around her. Although the yin-yang beast Noni's aura had become ethereal, he could only pin his hopes on Yi Yao. You be careful too. Chu Hen turned around and reminded Long Xuan. You too, Long Xuan replied. And, after speaking, Chu Hen and Wu Yen exchanged a look. The two understood each other's intentions and leapt into the air, heading towards the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. Almost at the same time, two figures flashed out of the black yin-chi current that shrouded the sky. That is yin-yang 8 trigrams. Could it be the yin-yang Genesis chi cauldron? There's no mistaking it. It's the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. Haha, it seems that someone is refining it. Looks like we came at the right time. A cold and greedy smile quickly appeared on the faces of the two men. But before they could act, in the next moment, a strong and ferocious airflow suddenly attacked them. Thump, thump, two overlapping thuds intertwined as a chaotic shockwave rippled in the air. The two were blasted backwards. Next, the space around them began to faintly distort. BZ, a bewitching ball of purple flames rose in the air, enveloping the two. The purple flames immediately disrupted the surrounding yin-yang Genesis energy. The black profound yin energy immediately transformed into raging flames. In the blink of an eye, the two were incinerated by two incomparably domineering flames. Ah, save me. No. A moment ago, it was still a sinister laughter, but now it had turned into a helpless and miserable scream. The two balls of flames burned brighter and brighter, making them look like two fire giants. However, Chu Hen did not take another look at the two of them. Together with Wu Yin, he charged into the layer of bone-chilling, mysterious yin qi. The black yin qi was like a whirlwind that howled in all directions, as if thousands of ghosts had gathered. One could clearly see blurry figures within the wind layer, and a few of them gave off rather powerful auras. Someone has drawn fire to them again. Looks like it's even more dangerous down there. Everyone was alarmed by the commotion below, and all of them maintained their vigilance. But at the same time, great anticipation surged in several people's hearts. To think that there are so many dangers below the Death Gate. Looks like there must be some astonishing treasure hidden there. Looks like we'll have to hurry up. The people from Heaven Condensing Pavilion have likely left the Life Gate. Swish! At this moment, two figures, one in front and one behind, hurriedly rushed over from the area below, passing through the layer of dark yin-chi flow at their fastest speed. Junior brother Chu Han, are we going to leave just like that? Are we not going to care about junior sister Long and Yao's lives? The yin-yang chi below is as chaotic as a whirlpool. Ordinary people will die if they enter, and the two of them are already powerless to reverse the situation. We've already obtained what we came for, so there's no need to say anything else. Chu Hen, I've really seen through you. You single-handedly looted all the treasures below, and even took the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. In the end, you don't care about the lives of your fellow disciples anymore? Shut up, don't spout nonsense. With a shout, Chu Hen immediately increased his speed, increasing the distance between him and Wu Yin. However, the person speaking unintentionally had a different meaning to the person listening. The moment they heard the words yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, everyone's ears abruptly perked up. Everyone's gazes converged on a single person. Yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron? The one ranked 19th on the divine weapon list? No wonder there is endless yin-yang Genesis energy gathered here. It turns out that there is such a divine weapon here. After a brief moment of shock, the shock in everyone's eyes rapidly turned into coldness and greed. In an instant, everyone stopped in their tracks and immediately turned to chase after Chu Hen. Junior brother, please wait a moment. Leave the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron behind. We risked our lives to enter the Death Gate, so isn't it a little inappropriate for you to hog all the treasures below? Numerous cold shouts sounded from behind. Chu Hen's gaze turned slightly as he coldly replied, "What yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron? I don't know." Why bother quibbling? We all heard everything clearly just now. Someone sneered. Hee, if you didn't take the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, why did you run so quickly? You clearly have a guilty conscience. Looking at the people chasing after him, Chu Hen frowned slightly. A cold glint appeared in his eyes as he fiercely reprimanded Wu Yan. You only know how to spoil things. I really should have left you there to be burned by the raging flames. Wu Yan's expression darkened as she replied through gritted teeth. Chu, I must have been blind. I never expected you to be someone who would disregard the life and death of your companions for your own selfish desires. You won't be able to take the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron today. Do you think you have the right to say such words? Swish! Chu Hen immediately increased his speed as he charged upwards. More and more people were chasing after Chu Hen. When they heard the words yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, not a single one of them hesitated. They immediately turned around and chased after him. Soon, the death gate that they had entered through previously appeared above their heads. The circular white light screen glowed brilliantly. From a distance, it looked like a passageway that connected to another space. Buzz, with Chu Hen in the lead, everyone passed through the death gate light screen one after another. The spectacular scene resembled a school of fish passing through a net as they scrambled to get to the front. The giant Taiji yin-yang rune that spanned thousands of feet was like a divine will suspended in the ethereal universe. From the eye of the black yin fish, figures hurriedly shuttled out of the light screen like streams of light. Meanwhile, Qin Shui, Li Yinqing, and the others from Equal Heaven Pavilion had just come out of the life gate when they happened to witness this scene. Upon seeing this scene and hearing the shouts from the crowd, everyone from Equal Heaven Pavilion felt a chill run down their spines. He actually obtained the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron. Li Yinqing clenched his fists, a chilling light surging in his eyes. However, Qin Shui indifferently watched the crowd swarming into the sky, a cold smile appearing on his sickly pale face. The yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron is a supreme ranked divine artifact. To obtain it, one must first refine its artifact's spirit. It's impossible for him to do so in such a short period of time. After speaking, Qin Shui's gaze shifted towards the entrance of the death gate. What a good move to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Unfortunately, I, Qin Shui, will not fall for your trick. The Equal Heaven Pavilion disciples looked at each other in dismay, unable to help their suspicions. What if he forcibly took the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron and then took it away before refining it? Someone raised a question. Qin Shui raised his eyebrows as he indifferently smiled. If he forcibly took the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron, there would certainly be divine power leaking from his body, but there was none. These words immediately made the Equal Heaven Pavilion disciples understand. However, just as they were about to disregard the actions of others and enter the death gate, a particularly strong wave of power suddenly swept over from the sky. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat as they lifted their heads to look. Chu Hen, who was at the very front, had waves of extremely restless yin and yang energy surging within his body. The energy that emitted an endless aura of desolation was like a ferocious beast that could not be suppressed and was about to break out of his body. That is, the corners of Qin Shui's eyes faintly narrowed. Seeing the ancient aura constantly overflowing from Chu Hen's body, he suddenly changed his mind. Chapter 1292. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the center of the ancient city that exuded an endless aura of desolation, one figure after another rushed out from the bottom of the huge abyss like bats coming out of their caves. The darkness faded, and the bright world once again appeared in front of everyone's eyes. At that very moment, Chu Hen had already become the target of public criticism. He became the target that everyone chased after. At the same time, everyone also sensed a powerful aura rapidly approaching from behind. They subconsciously turn around, only to see a group of people from Even Heaven Pavilion rushing over at top speed. It's Qin Shui. They're pretty fast. It seems that the water is getting muddier. Don't panic. Although Qin Shui is strong, they don't have many people. We still don't know who will emerge victorious. But seeing that Qin Shui had also come, everyone no longer doubted that the yin-yang Genesis energy cauldron was with Chu Hen. Although the other party was a top genius expert on the wind and cloud list, those who could participate in the sacred war conscription were not ordinary people. Many people were quite courageous and did not easily get scared. Soon, everyone left the giant cave in the center of the city, like a meteor chasing the moon, all the way to the sky above the ancient city. Looking at the numerous menacing figures behind him, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. Then, he turned his body and looked at Wu Yin behind him. His tone was still cold as he shouted, "You troublemaker! You really only know how to drag others down." Wu Yin frowned and scolded in a deep voice. "Humph! You even abandoned your companions, and you still have the face to reprimand me? Ha!" Chu Hen sneered contemptuously. "Useless person, what's the use of keeping you alive?" Buzz finished speaking. A shockingly vigorous and boundless power exploded out from Chu Hen's body. His body emitted ice-cold, killing intent, and with a flip of his hand, a huge palm of true yuan that seemed to be solid descended from the sky. It was like the hand of a demonic god, pressing towards Wu Yan's head. "You?" Wu Yan turned pale with fright. Her eyes widened in shock and anger. Bang! In the next moment, the earth-shattering power slammed into Wu Yan's body. Wu Yan let out a blood-curdling scream as she was smashed to the ground by the unshakable power of the palm. Together with the huge palm print that had sunk deep into the ground, several buildings collapsed and collapsed. The others were shocked in their hearts when they saw this scene. This Chu guy is quite young, but his methods are extremely vicious. He's even able to deal such a heavy blow to his own sect. The Yin-Yang Genesis Qi Cauldron will only sully the name of a divine artifact if it falls into the hands of such a person. That's right. No matter what, he can forget about taking the Yin-Yang Genesis Energy Cauldron away today. Although Chu Hen had the strength to kill Profound Yang Palace's Lu Minghong, the temptation of the Yin-Yang Cauldron was far more attractive than the key fragment. Moreover, in everyone's opinion, Chu Hen was alone. A fierce tiger couldn't defeat a pack of wolves. In such a situation, no one was willing to give up easily. He's the only one left. This guy is really digging his own grave. In the heaven-condensing pavilion team, a sinister smile appeared on the face of the 10-feathered demon blade, Li Yinxing. "Looks like I'll soon be able to take back my 4 hunting attribute spirits." Another heaven-condensing pavilion disciple echoed. "We might even be able to earn 2 of them back. The waters are a little muddy. It won't be easy to deal with them. There are quite a few of them who aren't weak. With senior brother Shui here, won't the Yin-Yang Genesis Energy Cauldron be in the bag?" Confident smiles appeared on the faces of several individuals. Qin Shui's sickly pale face seemed to contain a deeper meaning. Swish! After finishing off Wu Yin with a single palm strike, Chu Hen left a trail of dark blue lightning behind him as he swiftly left the ancient city. Numerous young figures with piercingly cold auras chased after them relentlessly, giving rise to a vast and mighty aura that followed closely behind. Soon after, the noisy ancient city returned to silence. Just as the last wisp of aura disappeared into the distant sky, a figure with a face full of dust and dirt abruptly sprang out from the ruins of scattered bricks and stones. Phew! He breathed a deep sigh of relief as he gazed in the direction the group had left in with a deep gaze. It seems that I still want to face it alone. He had successfully deceived everyone with this self-directed play. Chu Hen's palm strike seemed extremely domineering and lethal, but in truth, it contained a soft and gentle force. The force that Wu Yin had suffered was not enough to seriously injure or kill her. In the previous short discussion, the two of them did not discuss this. This was also the decision that Chu Hen had made when he was still alive. His intention was very simple. He wanted Wu Yin to stay here with Long Xuan to look after Yao. After all, no one could guarantee that no one would return. Wu Yin breathed a sigh of relief again. "Don't worry, leave this place to me." After muttering to himself, Wu Yin immediately turned around and entered the black hole abyss at the center of the ancient city. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, a full-speed pursuit was being played out in a fiery battle. Chu Hen continued to move towards the depths of the Chaos Devil domain without stopping. One after another, he crossed over mountain ranges below him. Chu Hen maintained a relatively stable distance from the many pursuers. Have they all followed? Chu Hen asked in a low voice. Compared to the auras that I sensed before, they are all here. Mo Qingli, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird, replied. A hint of relief emerged in Chu Hen's eyes. It seems that they have all been fooled. At least his efforts were not in vain. However, Yao's side was safe. Right now, Chu Hen alone had become the target of public criticism. What followed was likely to be a fierce battle. To be honest, Chu Hen was not worried about the others. The only one he was concerned about was Qin Shui of the Equal Heaven Pavilion, who gave him a much more dangerous feeling than Lu Minghong. Surnamed Chu, leave behind the yin-yang origin energy cauldron, and I will spare your life. A thunderous roar rumbled from behind him. A burly, 2-meter-tall man, like a small giant, charged from behind, wielding a large broadaxe in both hands. As he roared, he raised both axes high and slashed down. 2 crescent-shaped axes streaked across the air like silver hooks, slashing towards Chu Hen in a crisscross manner. Feeling the powerful destructive power chasing behind him, Chu Hen dodged sideways like an eagle. The peerlessly powerful axes struck a steep mountain in front of him, the sharp edge directly slicing off both sides. Mountain-splitting axe, Ba Ming, someone behind him exclaimed. Sacred light sword. At the same time, another figure with a sharp sword aura dragged a dazzling beam of light through the air. As he rapidly dashed forward, he stretched out his palm, and a dazzling golden divine sword suddenly shot out. Sword Chi soared into the sky. As the sword was swung out, it immediately transformed into a river of sword light that resembled a dragon. The sword river swept up an endless amount of killing power and directly attacked towards Chu Hen. The heavens and earth changed color, and the wind and clouds surged. Someone behind the crowd exclaimed again. Deadly swordsman, Yang Ping. Amidst the exclamations, the sacred light sword river, which gathered endless killing intent, had already rushed in front of Chu Hen. A cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and thousands of lightning arcs flickered around his body. He stretched out his palm and clenched his 5 fingers. Roar! Along with a monstrous, ferocious, and domineering aura, a blue lightning dragon was formed between heaven and earth. Boom! The sword river, which exuded a shocking, killing aura, clashed fiercely with the lightning dragon. A series of violent and chaotic energy shock waves intertwined in the air. The sword light and the lightning were like exploding sparks, surging in the sky. On the other side, just as Chu Hen blocked the dense sword aura, black clouds followed in the sky above his head, and waves of air surged, whistling through the sky. A black mountain, which was hundreds of feet wide, descended from the sky, pressing down on Chu Hen. The black mountain emitted billowing black mist and killing intent, as if every inch of it was as hard as gold and iron. It's Purgatory Peak, Yukai. There are so many experts hidden here. This is really unexpected. Ba Ming, Yang Ping, and Yukai were all famous young geniuses in the Midland. Although they were not ranked on the ranking list, they were strong enough to make it. Even the geniuses of some top sects would not underestimate them. Rumble. Along with the rumbling sound of a thunderstorm, a dense black mist enveloped the sky above Chu Hen. Soon after, numerous mysterious spell symbols appeared on the Purgatory Peak. An unshakable sealing force trapped Chu Hen within. In an instant, the Black Mountain directly crushed Chu Hen with the power of Mount Tai. Boom! With a loud bang, the mountain heavily landed on the ground, forcibly breaking a mountain ridge below it into 2. Ha ha ha! Let's see where you can run now. A loud and proud laughter came from the top of the Black Mountain. Dressed in black, Yukai's face was filled with an excited smile. Yukai, this guy is mine. Ba Ming, who was holding a pair of axes and releasing a ferocious aura, shouted in a harsh voice. Swish! Yang Ping, who was holding a golden long sword and had a proud temperament, also stood in the air, staring coldly at the Black Mountain, which was emitting a killing intent. At the same time, the other geniuses also caught up. Looking at the crowd behind him, Yukai, who was on the Purgatory Peak, had a cold look in his eyes.